How we doing, folks? Before we crack on with this week's episode of Brew Time, I'm afraid I've got some bad news. I was away on one of my chicken strips tours last week up in Scotland, and sadly, there was a very serious incident that involved two members of the group. One of the chaps has lost his life, and the other chap has ended up in hospital with non-life-threatening but serious nonetheless injuries. Jeremy is the chap who passed away. Jeremy was a member of the clan and he was an avid listener of Brewtime. So out of respect to him, his family and his friends, I'd like to dedicate this week's episode to Jeremy. Mate, it was a pleasure to ride with you. It was a pleasure to know you. Sleep well. And my thoughts are with the family and friends of everybody involved. Boys, do you want to have a chat first, or do you just want to crack straight on and see where we go?
Let's just crack straight on, I reckon.
Happy enough?
Yeah.
Right,
you lead us by the hand.
Glad you said hand. Folks, welcome back to Brew Time. This week I've got Marc and Jamie on, the lightweight adventure guys. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, we're really cool. We was just discussing about having a beer earlier in the afternoon. But
I'll join you on that.
And all the ups and downs of that. It's the first time I've drank beer at 5:30 on a Wednesday night, I think.
Yeah,
no,
all
it's
right.
not the first time.
Yeah, all right, Marc. Yeah, absolutely.
For the first time
right.
this week.
I've just cracked mine open. I've already done a little thing at the start of this podcast, but just going to raise a glass to absent friends. That's all I'll say.
Absolutely, man. Absent friends, yeah.
Absent friends.
Right. So we've just discussed this. Jamie, you are doing some James Bond stuff. Where are you just now?
Yeah, I'm out in the UAE at the moment doing a little bit of work out here. So yeah, I am 3 hours ahead of you guys, which is why we've had to pick this time of the night to kind of do it.
And he's forced us to drink beer. Look at this, shocking.
I love how he's being all coy about it. You've called him James Bond. We're being really mysterious. He's being a teacher.
I am being a teacher. Yeah, but that sounds much less cool than James Bond and mysterious and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm just being a teacher.
What are you doing? What are you teaching?
I'm a coach, so just teaching sort of leadership and coaching and team dynamics and that sort of stuff.
Oh,
so
mega.
in fact, both Marc and I kind of come from the same background in the military, and that's kind of, in fact, that's how we met actually, both on the same sort of course to start teaching that for the Air Force.
So how long are you going to be out there for then?
A couple of years. It's going to be a couple of years, yeah. So,
oh man, what an opportunity!
Which is exciting. Yeah, there's loads of. Yeah. It does mean that things are going to change on our channel, regards like the sort of content that we put out. But yeah, we're still going to be producing stuff. But yeah, it's going to be some different stuff from me over here. So there's quite a lot of sand over here. So I've got to try and get good at riding on that. But that's exciting, you know. Going to go and have a play about in some sand dunes and explore what the Middle East has got to offer, really, which is going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, turn it to your advantage. The opportunities available over there. Wow, it's brilliant. James, I owe you an apology because I always thought I'd already had you on Brew Time because I came on your podcast and I was sure you'd been on mine. But like I went back and through all previous episodes just to see when you were on. When was the last time you were on? And you've not been on. I was like, oh crap. So I do apologise.
We had a little laugh to each other because we'd been speaking via Instagram or however, and you'd put, it'd be great to have you back on the podcast. Yeah. And I messaged Jamie straight back going, he thinks we've been on it. He thinks we've been, he's been on ours.
Yeah, I remember I did yours a couple of years ago, didn't I? No,
that's right.
I thought I had you on mine straight after. Obviously not. Oops, sorry, lads.
It's quite funny because we've had the Thom podcast guys ripping us a lot because obviously we work quite closely with them at the festival and a few other bits and bobs. So we've had them ripping us quite a lot, saying, "What, you've not been on Bruce's podcast? What?
He's had everybody on. Why are you?
We're on episode 3043. And you boys haven't been invited on."
So sorry, boys. I do apologise. Well, we're setting the record straight now, aren't we? We're getting it sorted.
We absolutely are, yeah. No, it's good to be
Certainly
here.
are.
So for the
Better late than never,
uninitiated,
Bruce.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, boys. I'm sorry. For the uninitiated, who are you? What is the Lightweight Adventure Festival all about? What is the Lightweight Adventures all about? How'd you get to where you are? Go.
Yeah, what a huge question. Well, let's start it right at the beginning, because the beginning isn't actually that long ago, is it?
And I'll sit back with a beer. Right.
Yeah. So Jamie and I met 8 years ago, 2016, in the Royal Air Force, as we've just discussed, and we sort of threw around ideas on how we might one day create an empire, take over the world, do whatever we were. We'd considered doing Land Rover, coffee businesses, and all the rest of it. And over a couple of years, that sort of just, this initial excitement just sort of, it doesn't fizzle out, but it gets set back to the background and life turns on.
Yeah.
And then we were running responsibly spaced during COVID times, weren't we? We were out running. And we were discussing bikes, because we were always road riders up to that point, sports bike riders, and I'd moved to adventure bikes. And we just said, for the fun of it, let's get a couple of bikes. And we looked at the old Armstrong MT500s or 350s, whatever they were. And we just, and that's how we got into adventure biking. It was as simple as that. We were running down this little track and we said, let's get a couple of bikes and we'll be mates on a couple of dirt bikes. Mm-hmm. And then
weirdly, but weirdly, that all sounded so much simpler than our first iteration, because we did have something else that we tried just before that, didn't we?
Oh, we tried some stupid stuff. We tried.
Do tell.
Well, oh man, you know how they say behind every relatively successful endeavour, there's probably 5 or 6 failures. Oh, I reckon we could chalk that down to maybe 15 or 20 unsuccessful attempts. Because we tried a couple of things, didn't we? But I think the first one that we did was a bit of leadership consultancy, because we were doing that in the Air Force, and actually that was relatively successsul. We just didn't enjoy it as much, did we? And then
it wasn't really floating our boat, was it? It was like it was what we do in our daytime, but if you want to do something as well as your day job, you kind of want that to complement it or be something quite different. So Marc, being an avid Land Rover owner for years and years, he's always enjoyed off-roading on 4 wheels, talked me into buying a Land Rover. So we then had a couple of Land Rovers that we thought, right, we can go off on adventures and, I don't know, go to Africa, and we could do all of these things and all these ideas of grandeur. The truth is we went down a few green lanes, but it did spark an idea that we thought was going to be a really simple thing to do. And the idea was to basically have a cookery channel, like an adventure cookery channel. That was the first one. And it was called Feed the Senses. That was the idea.
Right. Wow.
And it was to cook outside. But we had our very first. So the idea was Marc's always been a photographer, and he was going to be the cameraman, and then I was going to cook up. I've always enjoyed cooking, so I was going to basically throw together campfire cooking recipes and that sort of thing. Yeah. But we had this horrendous experience down on the south coast where we soon realised.
I'm laughing. I don't even know what it is yet.
We soon realised that in order to do any of this stuff, the amount of kit you have to carry was ridiculous. Marc had his lights set up, we had cameras going, we carried down a full kitchen unit type thing onto a beach in a little cove on the south coast to get this beautiful setting.
A lot. Yeah.
Went through a whole program, all the angles and all this, that, and the other. Got to the other side, tried to edit it. No sound. Well, all the sound was washed out by the sound of the waves and all this, that, and the other.
The waves, the sea. We couldn't edit it because the sun was. We'd picked the blue hour because my photography brain told me to do that. But of course, the sun moved, as it has a habit of doing. And so every time we wanted to cut maybe a 20, 30-minute breakout while Jamie prepared something, well, you come back and the shadows would be wildly different. It was like a baptism of fire, and we'd struggled down this for 30 minutes down this little coastal path with a ridiculous amount of weight. I mean, we're used to carrying weight, and I think I've carried more into war zones. And we had underarms and on our backs, and it was clattering around. We looked like 2 little Boy Scouts, didn't we? Filmed it, had to clamber all the way up. and it was absolutely pointless. Didn't get anything from it.
I feel your pain there. There's nothing worse than like audio failure. That, I mean, you can almost just deal with shoddy visuals if the audio's good, but when the audio's going, that's it. It's done.
But that wasn't even our first foray into content creation, because after we got the Land Rovers, we decided to do a couple of basic tent reviews and like little outdoor accessories, whatever. But we filmed 2 tent reviews, which did weirdly really well on YouTube. But we had to do them all in single take because we didn't know how to edit. So it was all single take.
Yeah.
So it was like, prepare your lines. Here comes a camera. Don't stop talking. Don't stop talking.
Go.
Yeah.
Go. And of course, because we teach, words come easily to us, I guess. So we spoke for 20 minutes and then cut it, stop with the other person still froze. So it looks like we've edited it. And then because we were so giddy excitement, we uploaded it from the forest over what must have been 2 or 3G.
Yeah.
And it was the worst. It was the worst. It's still got like 20,000 views in the end, didn't it?
Jesus, really?
Still on there. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, wow. I mean, but we've had some great comments. You know, have you filmed this on a spud? What's going on here? And it's like, so
I've had more luck with a house brick. Yeah.
but all those things that they kind of led us to what we are now, which is the lightweight adventurers. And the idea was, we didn't want to be burdened with loads of stuff, but we also wanted to create some nice videos, you know. But moreover than that, we wanted to just document our transition from road bike riders into this world that neither of us have ever stepped in before. And it was very much, how can we document 2 ordinary blokes having a go at all of this off-road stuff with no experience whatsoever? And so that's really where it all began. Let's buy some bikes. Let's go and trial and error, really, and just bring everyone along for the journey.
Awesome.
And I think that kind of chimed with a lot of people.
Sorry to interrupt, folks, but just a quick shout out for this week's sponsors, who are, as always, Ultimate Add-ons. Ultimate Add-ons have been back in the podcast for the last few years, and I've been using their products since probably around about 2017, 2018. They specialise in phone holders, so both the mounts that attach to your bike and the protective cases that your phone goes in. Now, these cases are shockproof, they're dustproof, they're the perfect things to put your phone in whilst you're on the bike, and even if you do have a mishap, your phone is nicely protected inside that case. You can still use the phone, you can still use the touchscreen, you can even still use the cameras. They do a wide selection of mounts. I use the ratchet strap, which is actually in their cycle section, but you can pick any one you like for your particular bike or a generic one. It's up to you. Ultimate Add-ons are also doing a number of other accessories, things like action camera mounts. They're also now doing heated grips. They do things like a balaclava, USB, USB-C, power adapters, lots of different things. Head to their website, check out the products, and if you use the code TeapotOne with the number 10, TeapotOne10, then you will get 10% off. A massive thanks to Ultimate Add-ons for all your support. And a massive shout out to all of you over in the clan, over on Patreons, patreon.com/TeapotOne. I literally could not do this full time without your support, folks. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for going that extra mile with your support. You're also the backbone of the Brew Time podcast with all your questions. So keep them coming and we'll go from strength to strength. I was going to say, do you find, I found, although like my views in that aren't massive, I tend to find that I have a real solid sort of community. You know, like I have a real strong, engaged group that follow the channel, and everyone gets involved and they come along to ride outs. And you know, I'm blessed with a very strong, healthy Patreon following, and we do weekends away and stuff. Do you find that because you've gone in at like that almost base level, and then the people who've invested in the channel, they're seeing how you're learning and how you're progressing and how you're changing? Do you feel like the community is much stronger for that because people invest in it, don't they? And they see how you're growing.
Yeah, 100%. That was 100% the case, because when we started, we didn't even consider stats, views, subscribers. It was upload a video, like we said, from the forest and be done with it.
Yeah.
And And as a result, I like to think we posted relatively authentically, and I think people really like that on YouTube. It's part of its appeal, isn't it? So, as much as I wouldn't say it's hard not to look at higher viewing figures and be, I think I am envious sometimes of people with bigger viewing figures.
Me too.
You've got to take real solace in the fact that the people that do watch it really care, and the comments that come from it show that. And then when, of course, we started the festival, that was demonstrated in real world to us, how many people enjoyed what we enjoyed and were willing to come along and join in and all the rest of it. So it was a real world manifestation of what we thought to be the case on the ether that is social media.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Because the festival only came about. We were riding up through. We'd gone down to Spain on our first big epic adventure, which we at the time. I mean, Jamie had never ridden a motorcycle in Europe. We've travelled all over the world with the Air Force, but we haven't done the things that people consider routine, like ridden a bike in France, ridden a bike in Spain. And so we'd gone down all the way to the Tabernas Desert in Spain to visit Jamie's dad, and we wanted to pull a donut in the desert. So that's what we went and did.
That was our sole objective.
Nothing wrong with that.
Southern Spain and pull donuts in a desert. Because we're children.
Because we're children, and I broke my bike doing it. So we're riding back up, thinking like we're hardened adventurers. That's how we felt at the time. And anyway, I said to Jamie over the intercom, "Wouldn't it be ace if this is in southern France, wasn't it? In the Dordogne or somewhere like it was beautiful. It was quite inspired. Might have had a glass of wine or something, whatever the night before." And I got on the intercom to Jamie and I said, "Wouldn't it be ace if we could get, I don't know, 10, 15 people like us in a campsite? Wouldn't that just be a lot of fun?" And you were really
I said
mild.
no.
Mild.
I said, that sounds rubbish, mate. I was dead against it. I said, mate, I can't think of anything worse. That sounds a bit naff. Who would want to do that, you know? And so
what was the reason for that then, Jamie? Was it like thinking that nobody would be interested, or that's your thing and you don't want other people there? Or
I just didn't think people would be that bothered about it.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think people would make the effort to be bothered to come and sit and have a beer in a field with us.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, mate, it just seems like too much effort.
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, okay. I was sort of very indifferent about it, but not particularly backing of Marc's idea.
That's very relatable. I think a lot of us go through that. It's almost like a protective mask you put up, isn't it? Or a barrier you put up, in that if I don't try, I can't fail. So that's fine. It's true though, isn't it? Like I've felt like that in the past, in that different things that I've eventually gone to do. Even like, Patreon's a prime example. I was told to do Patreon for about a year before I actually did it, and I was like, who would join that? No one's going to join that. I'm not bothering with that. And as it turns out, Patreon is pretty much the sole reason I can do this full time. It pays my mortgage, and I if it had been left to my own devices and I hadn't been pushed by somebody, I probably wouldn't have done it. So it's like, you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you? You've got to go for it. And that's life in general. That's
100% it. And I think sometimes the people on YouTube, of which all three of us are, I get the impression, and how do I start this? When I see people off YouTube, I think of them, they must have this air of confidence, self-awareness that they are this personality, this character which is projected and people are interested in, and they're interested in people. But the reality is we're all just regular blokes. We are just regular people. Certainly I still consider myself a middle-aged dude sitting in suburbia, working. I still work a regular job. I'm just a regular guy. And so when you look at it through that lens, who would want to come and sit in a field with a regular bloke?
Yeah.
Like if I say, come and sit in a field with me, I'm a regular person, you'd go, my impression is you'd go, nah. But I thought of all of the people off YouTube, and we had maybe 1,700 followers at the time. I remember saying to Jamie, I think it'll be class, and if we get 20, I think we can chalk that up as a real success.
Yeah.
And like, I know Jamie well enough now that when I know he doesn't agree with something, he'll just go, yeah, mate. Yes. It's a good idea, that, mate. Yeah.
Anyway.
And then say nothing more about it.
Yeah.
But I think there was an element of like one of those earworms. The idea he set the seed, and it kind of the next couple of days, kind of right. I'm not really thinking about it, but it's obviously there somewhere, whirling around the back of the head.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how we got back onto the conversation, but it was like just chuck a post out, see who would be bothered about it, and it was just a simple, social media post. Hey, we're thinking about doing this thing. Anybody interested in joining us for a beer in a field somewhere in the Peak District? Mm-hmm. And we had like 50 people straight away just come back and go, yeah, I'll be up for that. And it's like, oh, wow, okay. So actually, we've already got a few people started to sign up to it, but it was just still at this stage very much a couple of beers in a field. And it was almost a bit of a giggle. How many CRFs could we get into one field? Yeah. How many CRF 250s can we get in one field for a bit of a laugh? But it soon started to gather a bit of pace. And we had to kind of change tack a little bit quite quickly, didn't we?
Yeah, there was a bit of a decision point because I then put a vote out. I think you can put a vote on the community tab, can't you, on YouTube? Yeah. Would you be interested? So that was our second post, and we had like maybe 170 people say yes.
Wow.
And so we're in this decision point now. We're like, well, even if half of those come, that's 80, 90 people. That's a lot of people. So Jamie sat around phoning up campsites. Can we take over your campsite for a weekend? That's good money for somebody in the Peak District. And a few of them turned around and went, yeah, that sounds brilliant. We'll take the entire campsite. Great. We'll park all the cars down the bottom. And actually, we're on motorbikes. Oh, you're on bikes, are you? Yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm washing my hair that night, sort of a response. So no campsite wants to take us. No pub wants to accommodate 80, 90 bikers. So now we're renting fields because that's our only option. And if you get a field, they don't have infrastructure, so you have to rent all that in. And well, if you're renting things in at great cost, we've since learned, you have to charge people because it can't all come out of your pocket. And before you know it, we're putting a festival on.
Yeah.
We just bumbled into it almost.
And everything that goes along with that. Wow.
Yeah. And the mad thing is, sorry. Go on, mate. We set a date as well. I don't know. We said, this is the day. I can't remember what it was. The first one was in the middle of August, I think it was. Just picked a weekend, that'll do. And it gave us like 10 weeks or 9 weeks from flash to bang, from when we started to when people pitched up in a field somewhere. And so it was like really manic, like 2 months, 2 and a bit months. But year one went really, really well. We were so lucky with the weather and everything.
We were so lucky, but just to give a picture of how naive and green we were to it, we didn't realise you needed a licence to put on an event. We didn't really consider. We've put on military exercises before, so we had an idea about water toilets, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But there was just so many things that we hadn't contemplated until it was forced upon us. It was like, every event has this, do they? Quickly, let's sort this. And stuff was still getting sorted out 2 or 3 days before the arrival.
Wow.
Generators. I remember generators. I mean, generators have always been a thorn in our side, but generators were being phoned up 4 days before people turned up.
Yeah. My next question was going to be, what is the biggest oversight or lack of foresight for that first festival? What was the thing that you went, oh my God, we haven't done that, and it's like, a day before the festival or something? What's the biggest thing, the biggest lesson you learnt from that first festival?
Well, I know which it was for me. I can see Jamie thinking it was the license.
Yeah.
The temporary event license. Just didn't know we had to get it. And so I'm reading through a festival guide online, how to put a festival, .co.uk. Make sure you've got your license squared away. I was like, I think we might need a license here, Jamie. I'm not sure what for. Went on websites, whatever they were. You have to apply for it 3 weeks in advance. Well, That boat had long sailed. And
Tomorrow,
and you have to apply through this agency and the police and the ambulance. And I was like, oh my life, we haven't thought about any of this.
Yeah.
But credit to them, the Derbyshire Dales District Council, if that's the council we went through that year, were brilliant. Held our hand, walked us through, do this, speak with these people.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah, it couldn't have gone smoother, because we were just honest and said we've been naive and didn't know.
Yeah. And I suppose that for a local council, it's kind of in their best interest, really, isn't it? Because it's bringing people to that area, which will hopefully, it's going to benefit petrol stations, supermarkets, shops, all that sort of stuff, isn't it? And then obviously, if it's a success, it looks great on that area and that council, because they've got a banging event going on there.
100%.
So where are you now then for this year's festival?
Well, I'd like to say we've learnt a lot of lessons, Bruce.
Speaking of licenses,
well, we've learned the licenses are always a pain in the backside. That's what we have learned.
Licenses, the more established and the bigger you grow, just become more and more of a beast. I'm not going to say they're difficult or otherwise, they're just much more complicated. And as our numbers have slightly grown, we were at 150 year one. I think we went to 350 on site year two. We're probably looking at somewhere 500-600 on site year three. And that obviously all takes much more risk. And so we've reached further than we needed to in order to give ourselves a bit of growth space. And that has been difficult. To not get into the details of it, needless to say, it has been difficult, and it has taken far, far longer to establish than we imagined. So licenses are always tricky. So if you're going to put on an event, oh man, I can tell you ins and outs, every single nook and cranny of a license now. I'm pretty sure of that.
So, folks, if you want to set up your own festival, drop the boys a line. Details down below.
Yeah, you can do that.
Sorry, I'm going to say just to answer your last question from Mike. So obviously, Mark said that year one was the licenses. I think for me, our biggest oversight, it was a lesson that we didn't learn in year two, but we've definitely learned this year now, or we've rectified this year. But year one was not understanding how many people you need to be part of the team, the working crew to put on a festival. So we kind of roped in a few friends and family, and there was a small handful of us organised to erect all the marquees and all that sort of stuff on year one, and even just someone at the gate taking the tickets and logging people in and out and all that sort of stuff and marshalling. And we'd massively underestimated that. But this really does feed into what you were saying about the people, the biking community, definitely our followers, the people that year one was all about. Really, our channel is mostly people from the channel that were coming to the festival largely. But every single person pitched up and couldn't wait to get their hands on. They'd all bought tickets, couldn't wait to get hands on the poles for the marquees. The people were just almost had to rein them in, and it was such an amazing sight. And I don't know if that's what made it even more special, that probably half the paying guests had a hand in actually setting the place up and helping the barman carry his barrels across to the bar and setting up the hay bales and all that sort of, but all of that kind of fed in, and it made this really unique sort of family feeling, like we've all put this on together. Just the fact that the two of us had kind of come up with an idea and followed it through and done the logistics of it, everybody else got to feel like they were part of the actual festival and the organisation, and that was a real eye-opener. And we still didn't learn that for year two because we underestimated it again and had a small team, albeit slightly larger than year one. But this year we've really kind of maxed out now. We've got a big working party, a really good set of people that are going to head up teams to make the whole weekend run smoothly. So Mark and I aren't hammering pegs in the side of marquees halfway through the festival and things like that, So the people, that really amazing.
Go on then. Before we move on, plug the festival. When is it? Where do people go for tickets?
Yes, so the Lightweight Adventure Festival is held in Tideswell Moor in the Peak District, 12th to the 14th of July. The festival this year has got two sides to it. It's got all the bits that you would expect from a festival. So I guess the music, the bar, the presenters, the talks, the cool bikes to look at. But we're also looking to launch the Academy of Adventure, so the educational side to it. Both Jamie and I are teachers, and all our videos predominantly have been about teaching something. So we're going to launch the Academy of Adventure, which is, let's call them workshops, but see them as a lesson, really. 5-10 people, hands-on, one-on-one almost with the teacher, where you can go and learn. Well, we've got people talking about how to pack your bike better, how to set your suspension up, how to change a tyre appropriately when you break down on the lane. We were speaking with somebody yesterday about what to do if you drop your bike in water. But also, so there's all those hard skills. We've also got people coming along to teach you how to build confidence before you go out on your first week adventure, how to unplan an adventure. I was speaking with Jade Rides, who's going to do one of our workshops, how to unplan your adventure. So how to get an idea, but restrain from planning everything. So you've got all these real hard skills and all these soft skills in the Academy of Adventure, which is going to sit in its own entity. But yeah, let's not forget that we still all want a beer in the sun, listening to some cool music as well of a night time. So yeah, it's a real 2-in-1 deal this year. Awesome. So there's that. It's Peak District, 12th to the 14th of July, and you can go to the website www.lightweightadventurers.co.uk. £99 a ticket, which we have worked tirelessly to keep at that price.
Lovely job. Links down below, folks. And we're also sponsored by the Influencer Store. Now, I've got some blurb to read out for them. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea and a design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Now, all my current merch over at TeapotOne.com, that is all handled by Roger and Charlotte and the family over at the Influencer Store. So thank you for all your support. And lastly, a big shout out to all of you who are either watching a podcast or listening just now on your platform of choice. If you can share with your mates, tell people about the podcast and help spread the word, that really does help. And if you're listening on things like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you can follow and leave a review or rating, 5-star is preferable, of course, then that would be absolutely fan-dabby-doty. All right, folks, let's get back to the podcast. Okay, so we have a lot of questions to get through. I posted up on Patreon and then posted up on Instagram and Facebook, and there's loads for us to get through. Are you all right if we just crack on and work our way through it? See where it takes us.
Go through both of them.
Yeah, there's a lot, boys. Genuinely, there's a lot. This could take a while. How are you set for time so I can gauge things?
I've got beers. We're good.
No worries. Okay, so first off, we'll head to the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Mr. Giggles. Now, this, I've got to admit, this took me a while to work this one out. It says, when does Ronnie Coleman turn up? Lightweight. You know who Ronnie Coleman is? Do you know who Ronnie Coleman is? See, you can tell. Ronnie Coleman is ex-Mr. Olympia. He's an enormous, huge black chap, ex-police officer, actually, who pretty much transformed bodybuilding back in the day. And his saying was, lightweights, baby! And he's literally got like a dump truck on each arm, and he's just like, so lightweights. That's what he used to say. So, I got it eventually, Joe. I got it eventually. Thanks, sir.
I'm surprised you didn't know that, Mark, because you're big into your bodybuilding, aren't you?
I love my bodybuilding. Just check my headphones here.
What is the bar? There we go. I think I got grabbed. Next one. Owen Harries. My questions would be, if the earth were flat, what would you all do when you got to the edge? And what type of vehicle would you choose? Secondly, milk first when brewing tea. Right, okay. Let's do the milk thing first. Milk first?
No. Negative.
Have you tried it?
It's awful, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes it so creamy. It's not right.
You've not done it right. You just need a splash of milk. Just a splash of milk.
What are you trying to achieve with that? Because you're going to ultimately saturate your tea bag in milk.
You don't.
Which is not a line I thought I'd say on a podcast.
You end up with a stronger brew. You end up with a stronger brew. honestly. So it's just a dribble, a tiny little splash of milk. Put your water in, and then pop the tea bag on the top, and just leave it for 3 to 5 minutes, and you will get perfect brew.
Well, we're gonna have to come down and see you, and you're gonna have to show us this in person at some point. I reckon.
I'll make the brews, no problem at all.
Yeah, okay. I know this is a podcast, but I want you to be able to see my face of disgust, everybody. Yeah, that sounds wrong.
So many people say that, and then they try it, and I get people messaging me going, "I can't believe it," but yeah, that's a good brew. So anyway, right, on to the next biggest question facing humanity. If the Earth were flat, what type of vehicle would you choose to get to the end, and what would you do when you got there?
Yeah, Jamie, take that one.
Oh yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, is that the bus coming?
And what do you mean if the Earth were flat?
Yeah, I know. I mean, firstly, that's the first question to attack back with. But what would I take? I think I'm going to have to stick by our brand on. I'm going to have to say that the trusty CRF 250L, because I know it's going to get to the end for a start. I mean, genuinely, the bikes are brilliant, and we're not even sponsored by Honda, annoyingly, but we could have probably made millions off them if we were. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I'd be on my little trusty CRF 250L because that's what's in the garage, you know. That's what they say, isn't it? The best bike for you is the one that's in the garage.
It's the one you've got. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one you've got.
No, wait. No, let's have a think about this, boys. You're not thinking about it straight. You've got to the edge of the world. Are you on land? Are you on water? Well, to get there, maybe you need to be in the air. I'm thinking, because of our military background, RAF background, I'm in a helicopter. I don't know if I'm flying it. If you helicoptered off the edge of a flat world, what would happen?
It would just fall out the sky, wouldn't it? Because it's got nothing to push down against, has it? What's creating the
It's
lift?
almost like we're trying to disprove the world being flat here. Almost.
We're trying to apply like physics to this.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair. Just to, I mean, we can't let that comment disappear. I mean, Bruce, how do you think that they don't push? They just push air onto the earth.
No, they don't, do they?
Like
they create a pressure difference, don't they? Like a normal aeroplane wing. Sorry. As I said it, I was thinking they don't push again. No, yeah, that's right. They create the pressure
push
difference.
Up from the earth.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'll be over here.
So anyway, I'm in the helicopter. Go on, Bruce. How would you get there?
To the edge of the world. It's got to be on the jigsaw, isn't it? Take the jigsaw. Just take the jigsaw.
You boys aren't thinking about it. Most of the earth is water. You're all going to be drowned. You need to come to the workshop to learn how to fix your drowned bikes.
What if that flat bit of the earth you can get to the edge over land? What if you can?
Right, so here's a question. Jamie's taken his little CRF, which he can spin on the side stand. You pull up on your jigsaw, front wheel over the edge.
Yeah.
How are you turning that thing around?
I'm not. Just going to quadrophenia it. I've got to the edge of the world. That's it. Quadrophenia. Just, freedom! Done.
Well, I mean, surely we just got to sit there and have a brew at that point, haven't we? We've got to get the milk out, then the tea bag, and then the water.
Yeah. That's a very random question, Owen. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
straight
thanks,
out
Owen.
the door, first one. Yeah. Right, next one. Andy, evening all. Just one question from me. Have they ever thought about trying their adventures on a sidecar outfit? Really enjoy the content from both the lads and Teapot. I think it's the fact your genuine nature's come through across the screen. Maybe one day Bruce can join you on your next Spanish Tet adventure. Yes. Sidecars. Moving on. Sidecars.
Wow.
Well, you've done the sidecars, haven't you?
We love sidecars. I own one. I own a Ural. I own a 1963. Well, it's a KMZ K750, which became Dinepa, became Ural. So it runs sweet. It doesn't run, but it kind of does run. I crashed it into a pub garden.
Good effort.
Yeah.
If you're going to crash.
It was my first ever outing. Well, actually, no, it wasn't my first ever outing on a sidecar because I saw you at ABR in sidecars. I don't know if you remember it. And I was being taken around by Matt in the sidecar guys. Right. And so I'm getting all excited because I'm in a sidecar and I feel like Wallace and Gromit and it's exciting. And we're coming down the main drag and you're behind me. And without thinking, because I'm a bit of an idiot, I start kneeling up in the sidecar to wave at you. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I caught myself and I sat back down and I said to Matt, oh man, I'm so sorry. I could have got you in trouble. He goes, you won't believe this, Mark, but there's no rules for a sidecar. He says, you can almost do what you like. Almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was fascinated by that line. The bike has the regulations, but the accessory, which a sidecar is, doesn't. I think I've got that right.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, right?
Well, I mean, I've seen in Europe, there's a big sidecar scene in Europe. And like I remember, I was going to my first ever bike trip, literally weeks after passing my test. I went in a group of like 15, 16, 17 old bill bikers. Like these guys were all like surveillance bikers, real experienced lads. And then me in the middle of it on my GSX-R 600. And we were obviously on a private closed stretch of French motorway, sat at about 160 mile an hour, just in a big column. It's all the way down through France. And all of a sudden you can see some lights behind us. It's like, oh, it's the old bill. Whoops. So we sort of moved into lane 2 or whatever it was. We moved out the fast lane. And these sidecars just came up behind us and flew by. And it was a convoy of sidecars. Like the fiber with the fiberglass cowlings all over them.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're almost like race sidecar units, but they have like a really smooth flowing caravan attached to the side.
I love it.
It was incredible. These things they were doing 160 plus, just straight by us. And then when we got to Bordeaux, they were all there. There's a massive sidecar scene in Europe. They love all that.
Well, I went to the Elephant Rally in February.
Yeah.
I took a little scooter, but it was
with Dave and Dave.
With Dave and Dave. So they taught me all about sidecars. But you get there and everything's a sidecar. You name it, from maybe like a little moped with a sidecar. You've got all of the Urals in the world ever there, but then everything is a sidecar. Europe really loves them. I've promised Dave one day I'll take my Ural there as well. But so it's UK. We just don't seem to have buttoned onto it as much as everybody else. But
Matt and Reese had been on at me for ages to go up and do something with them up there. And then I have a mate of mine, Marc, the Mad Leprechaun. He'd been trying to get me out on his unit as well, his sidecar unit, and I'd never done it. But I ended up going up and doing the sidecar experience weekend with Matt and Reese. Oh my God, it was great fun. It was great fun. I mean, they're quite different to solos, aren't they? They're really quite different to motorbikes when you ride or drive, whatever you do, a sidecar unit, especially these Urals. I mean, I think I was doing a left-hand bend, and it's so easy to bring the passenger up, isn't it? And you end up on 2 wheels.
Yeah. Well, that's how I crashed into the pub garden. I was test riding my sidecar. I'd had no introduction to them other than I'd bought one. I didn't have any weight in it, and so I turned into this junction, and the sidecar flew up. And of course, what happens at that point is your bike goes straight. Yeah, and I ended up in the benches.
Wow.
The pub was closed. I'll give you that. The pub was closed, and I was a barman there at the time. So I peeled my bike out of it, quickly made myself down the road. But I told everybody, and they found it on the CCTV a couple of days later. So it does exist in the ether somewhere.
Oh, we've got to see that. If anyone can obtain this, send it through. Tag us in the socials. Cheers.
I'll try and find it.
What about yourself, Jamie? Have you ever done the old sidecars?
I've not. I was supposed to do it at ABR with Matt and Reese as well, but we kind of ran out of time. We got dragged off to something else. I can't remember what it was. And I said, I'll come up to Northumberland and go for the experience with them, because they keep asking us to come up and have a go. And I'm desperate to have a go. I was really excited when Marc got his sidecar, but he's been very lazy and not got it running. So it's been sat there for about a year now without actually taking me out in it. Although, I mean, you said you were saying earlier on, there's no rules about the accessories on the sidecar, apart from which side the sidecar is on. There's an official, like it has to be on one of the sides, like depending on which side of the road you ride on.
Well, it depends. There's a lot of it. There's a couple of rules about when your vehicle was registered, how old your vehicle is. So if your vehicle's registered, I can't remember the exact dates, but if your vehicle's registered after the legislation was brought in, even if the vehicle was built with it on the other side, it's not allowed to be on the UK roads. If your bike is built and registered and was in the UK before the legislation came in. It's allowed to be on the incorrect side. So it's quite a confusing piece of legislation. It's quite clear, but it's also confusing. You know, you have to really look at it into the detail. So,
well, you know what you're going to have to do then, Mark?
Go on.
You have to get the sidecar up and running and then ride it to the UAE to go and play in the sand with Mark, with Jamie.
That'd be great. And in fact, he could bring one of my bikes out because we did actually talk. Not that I've got an old CBR 600 in the garage as well. And Mark posed the idea, says, can we stick a sidecar on it? And so the idea of a CBR 600, an old one, like a 99 plate, I think it was, an F, and stick a sidecar on the side and just see what happens.
Oh, mate, do it.
I am desperate to do this. It was one of those ideas, again, that when I posed it, Jamie went, yeah, mate.
And now I'm passing it off as my idea.
Yeah. Mate, do it. What a crack that would be. What a road trip.
I imagine that.
And just to go back to the CBR real quick, that was Jamie's first ever trail bike.
Oh, yeah.
What was it?
Yeah, it was. So when we first started getting into the off-road, there was part of us wanted to do it as cheap as you possibly can. Yeah. And so a way of doing that for me...
Northern. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Northern, yeah. But a way of doing that for me was like, well, I'll just use what's in the garage and see if I can... adapt it. So I had, like I say, the old 99 plate CBR 600, which are well known for being a good off-road bike anyway. But I thought, can I do something with this, or have I got to go out and buy a bike? So we gave it a go anyway. So I took all the fairings off. The fairings all off it. The whole thing sprayed black, looked like something out of Mad Max. I started trying to mess around with the gearing to just because it was so ruthless off road. The back wheel would just spin. But started to play around with that a little bit. Raise the suspension up. I've got knobbly tires on it. They're still on there at the moment. It doesn't go on the trails anymore. But yeah, so all of this and took it down the trails, down the old sort of Roman roads and stuff in Lincoln. It was the worst idea I've ever had because it was just horrendous. It was over 200 odd kilos of sports bike that should never be off road. But we took it to into the Peak District. Took it over like cobbles and sort of what I thought were pretty sort of gnarly off roads. On the right bike they were easy, but on this thing, man, it was so hard work. I was dripping within 5 minutes, and then Mark bought his CRF and just whipped straight past me. And I was like, I need to get rid of this thing and get something else.
Yeah, so because it's now on the internet, we'll have a trail going CBR sidecar outfit within a year.
There you go.
Now we've said on the podcast it needs to happen. Yeah,
absolutely, folks. Make sure this happens. Hassle them, give them grief. Get on the socials.
Let's vote. Let's put a vote. If we get to 500 votes, yes, then we'll get it done.
Right, you're on. You know this is going to be a reel now. This is now a reel, and we'll have a poll. Right.
Excellent. Go for it.
Make it happen, people.
I'll build it.
Yeah. Right. That's happening. Excellent. Just for that, Andy, next one. Biker España. Hi to all. Question 1. I'm wondering how the Gas 700 is going and how it compares to the CRF.
Yeah. Man, have you ever ridden one of the 3 variants, the 701, 690 or 700? Bruce, have you ever ridden one?
No, I've not.
Oh, man. They are something special. We both utterly love them. We had our first come across the Husky 701 when we was up in the Pennines with some friends. One of our mates was out on one. He let us have a quick go up this lane. Not very far, not very fast, all the rest of it. We loved it. You loved it more than me, I think. And then we borrowed a 690, which we didn't realise at the time was practically the same bike, just different colour, different dress. We borrowed one from Judd Racing in Nottingham. And I remember doing the end of that review and over the, speaking with Jamie, just saying, I found my next bike, I'm going to buy one of these.
Yeah.
And that was a couple of years ago. And I got back on the CRF and realised what I had and I loved it. But then I had the T7 World Raid and it wasn't the right bike. So there was only one real option. And the Gasser was it. Well, I just didn't realise they were practically the same bike at the time. I was naive to it. But man, they are something special. So they are. I would say they're inches away from being perfect. inches away. They're not perfect.
Because they're
back
inches
not?
too big. They're inches too tall. That's
Right.
where the problem is. They're about 18 foot tall.
Yeah. But I mean, I've got
meant for
big
Vikings,
noodles.
aren't they? They're meant for those Scandinavian lumps. That's what it is.
I've got big spaghetti-like legs, so I can flat foot my ES 700. It's not a problem for me. But I've not found one single bike where I'm on tiptoes. So the size of it isn't an issue for me. For Jamie, he needs a little step ladder. He's like mounting a horse. But they're not perfect because they're relatively expensive. They're like £9,500, maybe £10,000 for the KTM. I think that's a lot for a simple trail bike. They're very powerful. They're 73 or 74 brake for not a lot of weight. And as I have proved in front of Jamie to his great delight, you can get it very wrong very fast. Yeah.
Oh, we probably need to explore what happened here, Bruce.
And the third
just to bring you
reason
up to
that-
speed.
I was waiting. I was waiting for him to go
And the
into
third
that.
reason they're not perfect.
So we went out on a little ride with Jim. He's our site manager for the festival, actually, and he's got a KTM 690.
Yeah.
And Mark had just picked his gas up, just like literally rode it from the showroom to the trails to meet us in the Peak District. And it's got a couple of maps on it, so you choose sort of map 1 or map 2 depending on what you want. So one's like basically one's crazy and one's fucking crazy. That's basically it. They're your two options. And Mark's arsing about, but to be fair to him, he waited till the road was in perfect condition, like a massive tractor in front of us. And right in front of him is Jim on his bike before he tries this stupid crazy button. And I'm riding along. And the next thing I know, all I can see is this wheel up at my helmet height, right next to me, and almost on the back of Jim's bike. And I look across, and both of his noodle legs start scraping along the floor, and he's kind of wiggling down the road. The front end comes down, and the bike's all over the place.
Oh, no.
And I just look across, and all I see is these big white
You
eyes.
just can't style that out.
These big white eyes. And the funniest thing of all this is Jim's in the front, and he has got no idea that Mark's almost just wiped them both out in one go. Honestly, it was so funny, and it was the worst possible place to do it.
But I didn't intend to wheelie. The bike is just in map 2. It gets rid of a lot of the electronic package, and it gives you just instant fueling. And so I decided to grab a fistful in first. What I've learned is your front wheel goes to 6 foot.
Quick.
Instantly.
I tell you, I had a kind of similar experience today. My 1300 GS has gone back to the dealership again because I had loads of fault codes coming up, so I had to go back in to get all that checked and needs another update.
For you.
Yeah. I mean, I expected it. It's a new bike, isn't it? So
and other excuses that we'll make for them. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's gone in. It needs an update, and they've given me the 900 GS as like a courtesy bike. And as I left, the chap I know at the dealership I get on really well with, he'd had a little play and it only had road and enduro. And I was like, oh, it's dynamic. I need dynamic, on the modes. So he went, oh, yeah. So he put it into dynamic and he had a little play and he said, you like wheeling, don't you? So I think he like disengaged the anti-wheelie. So I was riding it and I did exactly that. I got a little bit energetic with the throttle. Bloody hell. This bike sounds... I tell you what, I had the Triumph 900 Rally Pro when I was in the States in March and fell in love. I loved that bike. It was so much fun. Beautiful engine. This 900 is really similar. It's higher up. But what a beautiful sounding engine it's got. It's really throaty and grunty. Yeah. And Jesus, it wheelies like nothing on earth. Allegedly, obviously.
Yeah,
literally... The 1300's fast. It's ridiculously quick, but it's still not a KTM in terms of, towel flicking your nuts. It still doesn't put the grin on your face. That 900, I had a whale of a time. Like, I'm looking forward to getting back on that bike tomorrow and riding it again. I'm really looking forward to trying one.
I'm really
honestly,
looking forward to trying.
It's a good bike. A lot of fun.
I've got a real
so far.
I've got a soft spot for middleweight, if we can claim a 900's middleweight.
Yeah,
I've got a soft spot for that
yeah.
style of that soft spot of adventure bike. You know, we've tried the 900 Rally, the Tower Res 660, the T7, you know, and all the KTM's in that weight range. I love them. I don't know if I ever get the most out of them because I don't do a whole lot of road riding. I like to take them down gnarly stuff. Whatever. It's the one bike that appeals to me, and then I think I'd really love it. I'd go and buy one, and then I'd take the little 250 out. It's that sort of a bike.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with them, and I did exactly that with the T7, because you walk in and you go, it's a beautiful looking thing. It's moderately expensive. Well, I'm not going to take that on the trails. I'll take the $2,000 250. That's how my brain works. But yeah, I am very keen to try one still.
I think if obviously I don't do that much off-road type stuff. You know, I very rarely will do it of my own accord. I'll go and I'll do it if it's part of like a ride that we're doing now. But it's certainly not top of my list. I much prefer road riding and stuff. But
why is that? Can I ask you why that is? Because I remember seeing one of your reels where you went, "Oh man, I'm off-road again." I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be the opposite. Oh wow, I'm off-road again." What is it?
I'll be on it. I play on it. I play on that because people all of a sudden started giving me this thing about he doesn't like going off-road and all this sort of malarkey. And in my head, I'm like, do you know, well, I'll mention it. Obviously, riding around the world, there's bits where you have to go off-road. You know, there's bits where the road just ends and they haven't built it yet or they're rebuilding it. So, okay, it's maybe not really gnarly off-road, middle of Mongolia and the steppes, but, you know, there is off-road and stuff. And I certainly did do some proper gnarly off-roading on the Jigsaw. So I've done all that. And I used to play on it a lot of the time just because the amount of people that still go, well, that Jigsaw will never go off-road. There's no way you could take that off-road. And I'm like, well, it's on fucking film. I've got the videos of it. You know, I've taken it off-road. But anyway, so I played on it a lot. And then it just sort of became a bit of an animal from that, really, where people just expected me to hate it. And I don't really know what I'm doing off-road. So if the choice was to go road or off-road, well, I'll just take road because I've got a vague idea as to what I'm doing on road. So I do that. But then now I've done quite a lot of stuff off-road now, and I'm no expert, but I'm definitely much more comfortable and a little bit more confident off-road. So you know, I'll if it's there, I'll do it. But I would still take the road just because I enjoy road more. Off-road for me is, okay, let's get this done. And I actually enjoy road riding.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think we're the complete opposite.
Yeah, well, I mean, horses for courses, isn't it? Like, there's people really out there that I've got mates that absolutely love riding in mud and sand and gravel and dirt, and they're not that fussed about road riding, and I'm the opposite. But well, say love.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, you know, with these, you're saying about the 900 cc's and the 700 cc's and all this sort of stuff. I'm kind of the same now. That I love the big CC bikes. I love the power. You know, the big adventure bikes and you know the Super Duke and all this sort of stuff. The big Harleys with the big engines. I love all that grunt and that horsepower. I kind of think for me now, I'd probably be better off with something like the 900, you know, the Rally Pro or this 900 GS, just because I was having a whale of a time. And I looked down and I was vaguely within the speed limit. And you're like, I'm getting the same enjoyment from whereas before you were in dicey territory. Now I'm kind of enjoying myself. And that's why I love the little like 250 cc's or 125 cc's, because you can rev the nuts off of them and you're probably not even hitting 30. Well, certainly not when you're 20 stone. You're hardly even ever hitting 30 or 40 mile an hour, let alone 60, 70.
That's what I love about the Gasser, I guess. You know, it's a 700. It's still got the same capacity, at least, as the T7, which everybody considers a middleweight. So you've got the same power. You've got more torques. It's a single, but mentally, you know, it's a trail bike, and so you're happy just to skid it around the corner and drop it on the next lane, and it doesn't matter. But as soon as it's a T7, it's an adventure bike, and mentally that does something to you. Yeah. So if you're looking for a trail T7, the 69701 700 ranges, it's grade A perfect.
Right.
The third option why the gas is not perfect, and this is well worth talking about actually, is although the LC4 engine is I think it's proven itself in reliability, there is not 1 mile that I've not ridden on that bike going, I hope this thing doesn't break down. It sounds like a bag of spanners. And it is Harry Spankers new. And it sounds like, and it's been serviced, it's done all the relevant stuff.
But it's always there in your mind.
Always. So it's not the perfect adventure bike, is it? It can't be. When I'm on the Honda, it doesn't even cross my mind, and I abuse that thing. I don't care for it 1 ounce. The Gasser, I'm always thinking about it.
Well, it's a KTM. Of course you are.
Exactly right.
Is that true still? Is that still fair in this day and age?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
Is it? Because I've got a lot of mates who have...
Check out the 790 forums and all the cam issues that are going on with them.
Right,
check out some of the different collaborations that they're doing with other agencies, CF Motos, etc., and some of the issues they've got.
Right.
I mean, the cam issues, it's quite known at the minute. Some of the cams are failing on 790s, 890s, I think, 901s. And KTM, I believe, allegedly aren't fixing them under warranty. That's what I'm led to believe via social media, so I can't say that's true. But if cams are failing on moderately light mile bikes, like 10, 15,000 mile bikes, which is considered light miles now, that's not a great news story, is it?
No, especially if they're not doing anything about it. Like people seem to have this glee at especially the new 1300 with the GS. There is so much vitriol out there from the usual GS hating wankers that, like, I've never even sat on the bike, let alone ridden it. But any news that there's an issue with it, they love it. They get all over it and just slate it. But I just think, okay, they've had an issue, but they deal with it. They bring it in. It's a pain in the arse, but they deal with it. They get it sorted. Does it cost you anything other than your time to get the bike there? And sometimes they'll even come and pick it up, but they'll deal with it. And I was going to say, it feels to me like KTM were changing, because I've got quite a lot of mates with KTMs now. It tends to be the bigger adventure bikes, the 1290s, that sort of stuff. And every time I speak to them about it, they're like, I've had zero issues, absolutely no issues. And
I think those 1290s are great, by the way.
They are.
I love it.
We test rode that 1290, and honestly, the way KTM set it up, the way it holds its weight. We took it off road, and it was just such
we
nice
took it down the same lines as a 690, and it behaved every bit the trail bike. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
And you know what? I take your point actually, because I think the build quality has got far better, and I think the reliability is getting far better. And certainly, if you buy a bike within the last 2 or 3 years, I think that you're onto a relatively safe bet. And I've not had any personal experience of KTM or Gasser not looking after you. It's just worrying when you're always getting these little reports, and they seem to grow legs about, any other brand probably would have stamped that out. You can't imagine a Honda with a cam issue getting that big a announcement almost, can you?
I know, I mean, this is fairly isolated, but I have a friend who may well be listening to this, actually. So all of you are, hi. He has an Africa Twin, which has spent more time in the dealership than he's actually ridden it. This thing has just been issue after issue after issue after issue. And he's at the point where I think Honda are saying it's the dealership's issue. The dealership are saying Honda need to deal with it. The finance company are saying, well, it's the dealership or it's the manufacturer. It's one or the other. Nobody's taking ownership. Nobody's taking the blame. And he's just sort of left with a bike that is not fit for purpose. And he's like, what do I do with this? And this is a Honda, like you'd imagine Honda would look after you. I think it's a bit ridiculous to think to have the arse if a bike has an issue, because bikes are just going to have, they're engines, they're mechanical things, aren't they? They're going to have an issue probably at some point, but it's how it's dealt with. And it's always how it's dealt with. And they just don't seem to be dealing with it at all. Like there's no ownership of the issue. Like,
Well, they're
this
not
is
used to
obviously
things going wrong, are they, Honda? That's the problem.
What do you mean it's broken? You've got it wrong.
It's like, look, come on, stop being silly.
Lads, let's be honest.
Joke's no longer funny. But to be fair,
if we read
they
the
were
comments down below, you'll probably find there's a few
Yeah,
there's a few ex-Honda owners.
Well, when I first got mine, actually, we took it straight over to Wales. It had a few hundred miles on it. That was it. It had its first service, and we decided to go and ride the Tet Wales north to south. Done.
Yeah.
So brand new bike, 600 miles or whatever it had on it. And I burnt the clutch out on that trip. And I took it back to Honda, and basically I says, look. In fact, I don't think it did even have that. It had like it's very only
2 or 3
few miles. Yeah, it wasn't very much. But anyway, so I took it back to Honda and I said, look, it's a brand new bike. I've had it a few weeks. The clutch is gone. And they were like, yeah. So that's not normal. It's brand new. It's brand new. And it was trying to sort of say that it was rider error, and maybe it was a little bit, but even so, it should be able to withstand a few hundred miles of use on trails. And there was a part of them sort of actually arguing back that have you taken it off road? Well, that's why the clutch is gone then. It's a dual sport bike. You built a bike to go off road. And so eventually, after a lot of arguing, they did fix it, stuck a new clutch in it. But yeah, actually, my experience with Honda fixing problems that they should fix has not been great, in all fairness. I mean, nothing else has gone wrong with the bike, but
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, it's always how it's dealt with, isn't it? And that
100%.
leaves a bitter taste in your. If it's not the way you want it or expect it, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. I've had it with BMW,
100%.
and so I just go to a different dealership and all right, vote with your feet. Just off you go somewhere
that's
else.
the deal, right?
Right, next question from Biker Hispania. He says, Tet, Spain or the UK? Which is your favourite?
They are both brilliant. we love the Tet. So we've ridden a large majority of both countries. It's hard to not say Tet's brilliant. Tet Spain is brilliant because you've got cheap beer, sunshine, and you're on holiday. So all of the things that aren't Tet make the Tet better. They're just very different. They are very different. I like Tet UK because I can go and ride it tomorrow if I wanted.
I think my favourite has to be France.
Oh, Tet France is magical. But Tet France is magical. But
I think out there too, like Spain and the UK are two very different things. Spain's brilliant because you spend almost all of your time off road, and if that's what you want, the Tet's brilliant for that. The UK Tet is linked with roads, which you get some really nice long bits, but Tet Spain is fantastic. You can jump on the Tet and you are off road for hours and hours, if not all day, and it's brilliant. And genuinely, it's brilliant for that. And there's some pretty gnarly and cool things to see. But I think if you're going to go for technical and British beauty, green fields and all that sort of stuff, then actually there's some really nice areas of the UK to see which are very accessible through the Tet. So I don't think it's a fair question to say which is the best. It all depends on what you want from your trip. If you want to spend loads of time off road, Spain's brilliant. Go, make sure you take some sun cream and have a great time in the sun.
It's a different sort of off-road trail riding, isn't it, in Spain? Like the UK, you're probably going to be getting a lot more mud, a lot more like gravel, shale, that sort of stuff. Where when I've done the trail riding, certainly in southern Spain, it tends to always just be dry and
dry, compact sand.
Compact sands. Very, very rarely is it like the sort of soup sand that you get in like the desert and all that sort of stuff. I've never really had that in Spain.
I think the two countries, it is just a bit like comparing apples to oranges, to be honest.
Aye.
Yeah. If I had to spend a week trail riding and I could only spend a week either in UK or Spain, it would be Spain. Is the honest answer, because it's easy riding, cheap beer, sun's on your back. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the Pyrenees in northern Spain is just what an amazing place to go riding around as well. That's just gorgeous. We've not exploited that anywhere near as much as we should. Yeah. But we've got friends that have been there, and that I suppose you could. I'd probably go for that, plumb for that. Probably could say Spain and probably the northern or the very southern parts of Spain.
Gotcha.
Personally,
I'm in the Pyrenees. next month, June, second half of June, actually. Bit of road tour, taking a group out on a road tour around the Pyrenees. Can't wait
See,
for that.
there's me saying how much I love off road, but even I would love to do a road tour in the Pyrenees because it's that beautiful, you know. It just is that amazing. I mean, you nearly crashed in the Pyrenees because you're just looking at beauty, Jamie. You nearly rode into a barrier.
What was it name?
Well, I've got it. I've got it on film, so it definitely happened.
Yeah, we came down this big pass, and it was just sort of entering the Pyrenees. So we've done a lot of roads and all that sort of thing. It's got a bit monotonous and boring. And it starts to build, doesn't it? And we came around this corner, and it was just you're presented with just this view that takes your breath away, and you're like, oh, that is incredible. You just start staring at it. But I completely forgot that I was on a motorbike and I was in control. And then, like at the last minute, I was like getting very close to this barrier, and it sort of snapped out of it. And Mark was like, "Mate, what are you doing?" I was just like looking at that, mate.
And then he says, "I'm just looking at the beauty."
I think I still hold the Picos above the Pyrenees personally. For road riding on a bike, I think I would still go. Yeah, I think I'd still take the Picos. Be interesting to see because it's been a while since I've been to. It's probably a good 4 or 5 years since I did the Pyrenees. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see by the end of June. I'll know. Question 3: who is the most organised? Oh,
Mark.
Yeah, me.
Next question.
Really?
It's like without doubt, yeah. If you want something on time, if you want something where you know it is, if you just want something done, me. But if you want a stranger approached, if you want to find a different way of saying something, if you want a softer approach, which you've not got the blunt engineer Mark saying it, it's Jamie.
All right.
But organised, yeah, fact.
Yeah,
Each morning it used to wind him up because we used to get up and pack our tents away, and I would be packed, like staring at him. Right, when are we getting on the road? And he's pulling socks out of his hats and his pants out of his sleeping bag. And
I've always been the most disorganized soldier. Yeah, I was never like, even my fieldcraft's never been brilliant. Like, you know, I'd go out with people, and I had these friends that would sleep in a bivvy, and he did this to me one morning. He woke up. And without even opening his eyes, really, it's still dark. It was like 5 a.m. or whatever it was. And his hands just started to reach into different pouches on his webbing and pulling different things out of his Bergen. And then, like, the next time, then I just looked across, and he was stood there dressed, and everything's packed away, and he's done. And I'm like, how have you done that? And I'm still sort of laying in my pit. And so I was like, right, let's let me give this a little go. And basically, I just had to effectively pull a pin of my Bergen, and it just exploded everywhere. All the kit's all over the floor, and I'm just kind of running around dragging all this stuff to pack it back in the Bergen again. So yeah, I've never been the most organised in that sense. If I need to be, I can be extremely organised, and I kind of want to get it all squared away. And so this morning is when I got fed up of Mark staring at me, sat on his bike waiting to go, and I'm having to pack the last bits. I hated that feeling. It wasn't so. I was like, I'm going to get squared away tomorrow. I did it on purpose because I knew it'd wind him up if I'm sat there waiting for him. And he was feeling really stressed. I only did it to wind him up.
I go through these stages. I can be just like that, Jamie, where I mean, like, if you could see the state of my office, my desk and everything at the moment, it's horrendous. And I'll be like this for weeks, if not months, where it's not even organised chaos. It's just bedlam and chaos around here. And it plays on your mind, you know, like, if I'm working somewhere that's untidy and unorganized, that's kind of how my work process is. Like, trying to focus on like editing or a specific thing of editing, I almost can't because of all this confusion going on around about. So at some point the switch goes, and then it's just like, oomph, everything gets tidied away and everything's immaculate, and then I'm really structured for like a week, and then you just you know, you get a bit of post that you need to look at, so you open it and put that at the side of the desk, and by the end of the week it's all just stacked up everywhere and it's absolute chaos, and then I'm back into that thought process again.
Exactly the same for me.
Yeah.
Mark loves a spreadsheet. Mark loves a spreadsheet.
Self-feeding, don't you?
Oh, mate, he is that boring. Honestly, that is exactly how boring. How boring is Mark? He likes spreadsheets and pie charts. Spreadsheets and pie charts.
Color coded,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. As soon as I've got an idea and I want to pitch it to Jamie, I'll go, mate, I've created a spreadsheet. And he'll go, oh, you love a spreadsheet. It's the only way I can see things. I can plan on a spreadsheet. I love it. As soon as I've got an idea, spreadsheet, done.
I'm visual. Maybe that's what I need to do. I need to see stuff. Like, people can talk till I'm literally blue in the face if they're just talking at me. I can't picture stuff. I have to see it. Like, even just writing it down and letting me look at it written down, then it seems to go in. Or, like you said, if it's a graphical representation, then it goes in. But somebody just talking to me, I'm like, oh, what?
Yeah, exactly where I'm at. And I've got very little. No, I don't know. In social context, I don't always present the right face. So if I'm thinking about something because I'm trying to process what you're saying, my face tells you to sod off. But that's not actually what my brain is telling me. But that's certainly what my face says. And so if I can read it, at least I can hide my face a little bit and sort of, like, yeah. Otherwise, if you're telling me, I'm like, but I am listening, but I'm not.
I always feel like I'm smiling, but so many people come up to me and go, Jesus, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you got a face like thunder. You look like you're going to kill someone. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like this. I feel like I'm beaming. And obviously it doesn't come out that way. Well, never mind. Right, next one, David McCracken. I believe you've headed. Yes, right. I believe you're headed to the Americas soon, which looks amazing. Are you concerned about safety on this journey, considering the recent bad experiences that Nick and Beth from Monduro de Tontos had? What safety and security precautions are you taking for this trip? Yeah, that was terrible, wasn't it? That poor couple.
Yeah, really bad.
I'm not concerned about safety because Marc's going. So
yeah. Am I worried about security and safety? Yeah, hands down. It's probably my biggest worry about it.
Really?
Whenever I've travelled with the military, or it's been on holiday to a tourist destination. But naturally, when you head to a military establishment, it's going somewhere tasty anyway. But you've got a machine gun, so everything's cool. This time, I'm not taking the guns naturally, and it's very out of the unknown for me. So I don't know. So I am worried about it. Yeah. And I put very little in place to really control that. I guess that's part of the reason that I'm going to the Americas, to sort of test myself and pitch myself against it a little bit, just to see how I am. Don't want to get all pink and fluffy here, but I do want to go and try and find myself a little bit, in that I've never really tested that part of me out, and I'm in my mid-40s, so it's time to do so. Yeah, I am worried. I've been speaking with people who are in the Americas at the minute, and they do tell me, rightly so, of all the good things that happen, and how we don't hear them. But of course, you get a couple of really bad pieces of news, of which this is one of them, obviously,
because they get clicked.
And it plays on your fears.
Yeah.
Disregard the thousands that have gone through and had a brilliant time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I can give you my mechanism coming in, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is, and it's also your background as well, and I can sympathise with that 100%, because I was the same in West Africa. Coming from the police background, where your risk analysis and your risk assessment part of your brain. I mean, that's effectively how you do your job, isn't it? In the military, I'm assuming, must be exactly the same. You're constantly looking at a situation to weigh it up and determine, right, is this going to kill me? Is it going to kill somebody else? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? Like, what level of risk am I looking at? And I found that frame of mind was really detrimental to my experience in West Africa, in that, things were going on, but I look back now and I think, if I wasn't so hyped up and already on the back foot and on the defense for everything, if I wasn't already in that frame of mind, if I just approached it like a lot of other travelers do, where, we'll just see what turns up, you just see what today brings, which is the attitude that I brought to the trip after that whole experience in West Africa. Everything just rolled so much better after that, and I felt like I was never under the same level of threat that I felt like I was in West Africa. So I look back now and I think, okay, yeah, you might get robbed. These things happen, but are they going to kill you? No, because like if they're going to do that, it'll happen straight away. It's not like you're going to be sat there and 10 people that day are going to be pointing guns at you and asking for money. That's just how they do that thing over there. I mean, South America, I didn't experience any of that in South America. Even in Mexico, where everyone told me I would die, El Salvador, where everybody told me I was going to die. Some of the nicest people like I met in the Americas, just really, really nice, welcoming, hospitable people.
Yeah. Sorry, Bruce, when you were going through the Americas and stuff, how did you pick your routes? Did you kind of stick to the mainstream routes, or did you try to go off track a little bit to see more weird stuff?
I did. It's a mass. I don't like having regrets, but it is a big regret of mine in South America in that from Santiago, oh, blimey, what have I done there? From Santiago, I literally just hit the Pan America and headed north. So that's a big regret. I wish I'd explored more. I did a little bit of exploring up into the mountains in Peru. I sort of ended up in a tiny village running out of fuel right up in the mountains. But again, you have a great experience. You end up having to approach locals like the police. Yeah, I had to approach the police and ask, does he know where I could get some fuel? And he took me into the village and tapped on a lady's door, and she used the petrol station. She had literally water butts of fuel in her house, and I shit you not, she's smoking a cigarette while she's taking the lid off a vat of fuel and ladling fuel out of that into some like a Coke bottle with the top cut off with tights over the top as the filter, and she's smoking while she does it. And she just gave me like a plastic bottle of fuel, and that's it. You got fuel, and that sort of experience, that to me is overland travel. That is travel. That sums it up to a T. Just people are 99% of the time are great. They're just normal like us. Sadly, there is the odd occasion when they're not, but most people are brand new.
I guess that's where I'm at with it, because I intend to, I'm not intending to ride the Pan American much whatsoever. Actually, I'm intending to find the back roads as far as I can. And one of my key things that I want to do is find my way into the rainforest and then ride the Trans-Amazonia out. So, they won't know who I am until I'm upon them. They'll have to make a decision. I'll make a decision based on what they decide to do. I hope I'm here by the end of the year telling you all about it. I want to go in with that attitude. I think I'll start off very much in the attitude that I live in, but I'm determined to become that chilled out guy. Yeah, I've got it in my mind. I will become that, and that's what I'm wanting to test when I'm out there. Yeah, because I've never lived like that. Never.
I've spoken about this quite a few times with people on this podcast. There's is it the Polaris box? Is that what it is? Where your action affects my action, which affects your action, which affects Polaris box. Yeah, that I mean, Sam Manicum says it all the time, doesn't he? He says just face the situation with a smile and take it from there. There's nothing else you can do, because if you go in up here, it's not going to help matters in the slightest, is it? Yeah. So
it's one of the basic tools we teach. It's one of the basic tools we teach all of our military officer recruits. Yeah. Because I teach them still. Yeah. It's go in with the right attitude. So I've got to practice what I preach a little bit. Yeah. But it'll always be in the back of my mind. It will do, because it's new.
You can't be foolhardy, can you? Because if your spidey senses are going, get the fuck out of there. Okay, yeah, probably listen to them. But they might do that for the first couple of situations, and I don't know. It's weird, because I was very much on the defensive foot, I would say, for the first couple of months, and then you just sort of fall into that overland mindset where, see what the day brings, see what the next hour brings. And
that's the unknown, isn't it? You only fear the unknown. Yeah. But when the unknown starts to become normal and you normalise those events, Well, actually, that fear starts to drop away, doesn't it? Yeah, the more
Yeah.
times you are worried about something and it turns out good. Well, actually, I remember we went the first few times we did wild camping. Mark's still not the best wild camper in the world. He still doesn't particularly enjoy it, but he knows that's going to be a big part of the trip. But I remember one of our first ones. I think it was in southern France or northern Spain, something like that, on our trip down south. And we just found this. We rode for about an extra 2 hours longer than we'd planned because we were trying to find the perfect wild camping spot. And it was a pretty good spot by the time we found it. But there was each time we came up to a spot where I was quite happy to just stop. Mark rightly would point out a few things, some which were definitely worthwhile pointing out, others which we both kind of bickered about, and then we carried on a little bit. But yeah, when we got to this wild camping spot, it was a case of I could tell that he was a bit nervous about it, and we were both a little bit apprehensive. We've not really done it. We're in a brand new place. Didn't really know what was going on because it was dark when we arrived. But we got through the night and woke up the next morning. It's like, actually, that wasn't as bad as I was expecting. And actually, this is beautiful. We're in the middle of nowhere now, and we kind of, you do that more and more, that fear starts to go away. By the time we'd done that a few times on the trip, actually, we couldn't wait to just get to a place. And the only reason we stopped enjoying it as much is because we wanted to bump into people. And if you're off the beaten track and you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, by definition, you're not going to see anybody, which is kind of why you want to be there. So, that became the reason that for us not wanting to do the wild camping, or not wanting to do it, but not wanting to do it all the time. We wanted to be in and around people,
That's the beauty of it, though, isn't it? Is when you sort of overland travel, you can, all right, I fancy a bit of company, so you check yourself into a hostel, or camp at a normal campsite, and you can mix with people. And then when they've peed you off enough, and you just want a bit of alone time, you can go and camp in the desert or camp in a field somewhere. Yeah, I remember all through the European stage, I didn't camp other than at campsites. I never wild camped because I was bricking it about camping in a field. I don't know why, I was just really worried about camping in a field. And then, as you said, Jamie, after that first time that I actually camped wild, it was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like proper freedom, isn't it? You just do what you like.
I'm not worried about, obviously men with machetes or things biting me and killing me when I wild camp. Yeah. What I'm worried about is a ranger coming along going, you can't camp there, mate. And the embarrassment of having to move along and the hassle. Yeah. So it's not really a worry as in a fear worry. It's a anxiety worry that I'm going to be embarrassed. Mm-hmm. That's what it is, certainly for wild camping in UK or close to Europe.
I get that. Yeah, I get that. Are you taking a spot tracker?
Yeah, I've got the little Garmin InReach Mini 2. Yeah, you can probably see behind the impact. Yeah, great piece of kit. Yeah,
awesome bits of kit. Yeah, definitely. I had one of the sort of early spot trackers, and it had a function. That's probably got exactly the same function. It had a function on it, so every night when I got to somewhere to stay that night, I could just push that button, and it would send like a text or an email to my missus or like designated contacts. It just said, "I'm safe. This is my GPS coordinates for the night," and people could just see. In fact, I think I had it linked up to my Facebook page as well. So each night when I hit it, people could just see, "Oh, right, you're here now, and you're there," and you can zoom in on like Google Maps on satellite and see not where you are, but where you are, if you know what I mean. Like see the area. Yeah, good bits of kit. Next one, Michael Heaton. I loved last year's festival and I've been nearly dried, and I've even nearly dried out and warmed up from it. Can't wait for this year's do. Bring on the sunshine. Yeah, last year was a bit of a, not a washout, but it was,
I don't want to talk about it.
It was close.
The British weather did its thing. Yeah.
Middle of the high peak of summer, and Hurricane, I think it was Harold, came through, didn't it? Or Storm Harold, or whatever it was called. Awful weather.
We were one of the few events that actually pushed on through that weekend. We know of several bike events that cancelled and a few others. And we even, just before that, we were seriously looking at each other going, mate, do we need to just pull the plug on this? And then people started to arrive. And actually, the day before, we were looking at it going, are they just wrong? Because actually the weather was all right. We were sort of setting stuff up. We were like, Are they just
It'll
wrong?
be
Are we
all
gonna,
right.
yeah, are we going to be all right? And we just said, well, let's just push forward, and if we need to can it, we'll can it. But yeah, the show must go on, sort of thing. And we
Yeah.
had to adapt a few things. The stages weren't exactly how we would have liked them because we had to change stuff, and yeah, things went wrong. But it was probably the toughest test, that we've had. And well, I'm not going to say anything about what this year is going to be like, but I don't want to put the kiss of death on it. But
But it's
yeah,
memorable, isn't it?
we
And
learned
it,
a lot.
it bonds people together that went through that.
Well, weirdly, it was like we all had a common enemy, and everybody just everybody gathered under the beer tent. Everybody gathered in the beer tent, and everybody was chatting. And even my wife, who was there, she's not a biker. She got chatting to other people because everybody was in the same vicinity, and it was pretty ace actually. And a couple of lads who had met at the year one festival were now sat together because they'd gone to Nordcap together. They'd found their adventure buddies at the lightweights year one. And they come down and they'd corralled this table together. And so now they're all mates. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had the awful weather. So, yeah, it was a bit of a blessing in disguise in some ways. We learned a lot from it. We learned so much.
We'll see what this year brings.
Let's not talk about it.
We had one night, I think it might have been I think it was the Friday night or Saturday night, I can't remember. But it'd been hammering it down all day. The wind had been coming in and out, and the rain had been lashing down. But everyone still had a smile on their face. And like I say, Mark and I had still got the working party numbers very wrong, so we were still very busy all the time. It's too much so that we couldn't really socialise with people. We're always having to sort of give an apology and run off and do another job. But I remember rolling into bed. It must have been we were always the last ones up, and we turned the jennies off and turned all the lights out at the end of the night. Rolling into bed, it must be about 11:30, getting on for 12 o'clock, something like that, and dripping wet. And so just get sorted. And I was in my transit van. I stuck a bed in the back of that, and that's what I was sleeping in.
Cheat.
Mark was in the back of the big box van so that we used to carry all the kit down. Anyway, it must have been, I must have laid down, and it must have been 15, 20 minutes. And I just heard like on the side of the door, like a knock on the side of the van. And I was like, nah, it just must be something just knocking up against it. And I heard, Jamie, are you awake? I was like, yeah. Because we need to go and put the stretch tent back up.
The beer tent had come down.
The beer tent, yeah. It did, like a gust of wind had got underneath the stretch tent, and a couple of poles had moved, and then the whole thing had just kind of, it had all just come apart. And so it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, Mark and I doing that.
In the driving rain.
Yeah,
Not
no
what
idea.
you want to be doing.
Yeah, stood there going, it's one of those moments in your life you say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this?
It's proper type 2 fun. You know, when you're out on stag on guard, or you've got the night picket, you're on exercise or something similar to that, and the rain's coming in, and it's fun. You know, they've tried to convey it in the army message, the army adverts about this is belonging, but it's right. It's at those points when you're in the darkest, most tiredest, wettest, and
Absolutely, yeah.
And then you just find yourself in hysterics, don't you?
Yeah.
I remember looking across to you, going, "What are we doing, mate?"
Those moments of adversity, and that really is it, isn't it? You know, and you look at each other and you go, "Well, whatever happens, we're in it together."
Yeah.
And then about 4 hours later, we're back out there again, testing everything because we wanted to make sure it was all good for everybody, all these paying people. So make sure the next morning we were the first ones up again, tighten all the straps again. Everything was good. The wind had died down a little bit, and luckily we're okay. But it's just those moments, they're hard, man. They're hard moments, hard times sometimes.
Are you jetting in for the festival this year then, Jamie, or are you going to be remotely popping in?
Yeah. The intention was for me to fly back. Unfortunately, I can't. So Mark is kind of taking the reins, doing most of the heavy lifting, both figuratively and literally, because he's back in Old Blighty. But yeah, so we've not figured out exactly what my involvement's going to be over the weekend yet. I think we've got a few ideas floating around, but yeah, I'm unfortunately not going to be on site this year, but it's definitely in the capable hands of Mark and Jim, and we've got a team of incredible people who who have volunteered to help. You know, we're not making money to be able to pay all these people. They're doing it out the kindness of their own hearts. And we've these are the team that have kind of built up over the last few years, and it's as much their festival as it is ours. You know, it really wouldn't happen without them. So I don't doubt that there'll be an amazing bunch of people squaring it all away, even though I will be there in spirit at the very least.
Next to the pool, you scumbag, drinking a margarita.
Do you know what? I've got massive FOMO, like you wouldn't believe, because obviously I know what's coming, and they've got some really good new stuff coming, and the people that are coming to speak are all the people I'm desperate to listen to, and then we talk about the bar and Rich, our barman. He's so excited about effectively putting on a beer festival for that weekend. So he's getting excited, and every time you speak to somebody about it, they're getting excited, and it just like makes you think, oh, I'm so gutted that I'm not going to be there. But as long as everyone else has a great time.
Like the ABR is fantastic, isn't it? You know, it's an amazing festival. But it's not like your traditional overland festival, is it? Where, well, literally the overland festival. Do you remember the overland event? And it was, you know, is nowhere near the same scale, but it felt like a real nice community thing going on. And I remember hearing, I've spoken about this before. I remember hearing about the ABR. You know, ABR magazine was going to be putting on a festival, and they were talking about like 4,000 or 5,000 people initially. And I remember thinking, that's not overland travel. It's too big. You're going to lose that tight feeling. And somehow they've managed to make it a really nice, enjoyable event with like double that, and I think almost triple that this year.
Triple that,
yeah, but then I've heard the Overland's coming back next year, isn't it? The Overland
2025,
event.
Yeah. Speaking with Saul and Paddy, the organisers, it's coming back. It's missed already.
So it's nice to have like a more intimate event, I think, because you can't help but have more of a community feel to it, and you definitely see the same faces, don't you? Every year, people come back to the same events, and it's a real nice feeling.
Even to the extent where you read the question out from Michael, and we know Michael. I would consider Michael a friend, and we'll buy him a beer at the festival. Just brilliant, you know. And he's put us on to contacts, and now contacts are helping us with the festival. So Michael owns a little bit of the festival, and everybody else does. And I love it.
Awesome. What it's all about. Next one. Simon Lewis. Evening, folks. Mark and Jamie, or is it Jamie and Mark, the Ant and Dec of lightweight adventures? An amazing festival last year in which adversity with the weather seemed to bond everyone together and make it such a fantastic experience for all present. Looking forward to volunteering at this year's event. Which new feature are you most excited about? He's all right, Simon, isn't he? He's an okay lad. He's all right.
Si's a good lad, isn't he? He's just after a beer. Everybody wanting us to buy him a beer, aren't they? I mean, what a huge question, because ultimately, because we've moved site, the festival is not a new festival, but nearly everything is new.
Yeah.
Nearly everything is, you know, the site, the layout, what we're bringing to it. Same bar and a few other things, but yeah, what are we most excited about? Well, I've got mine actually, Jamie, but let's go with yours, because I know what I'm going to say. Okay. I'm interested to say what you're going to say.
Okay, yeah. Well, mine actually, there is a part of the festival which is not within Mark and mine's control, which is probably why I'm quite excited by it. And it's an individual that we've been trying to get to the festival since year one, and he's been wanting to come to the festival since year one, and he really is like the central figure to lightweight adventure, and it's Mr. Austin Vince.
I was just about to say Vince. Yeah.
Now, Mr. Vince is he's here. He's going to be at the festival this year. He's not only going to have his tarp and probably parade around in a pair of Y fronts, which we saw him do at ABR, but he's kind of got a whole area of the festival, or a part of the site that he's going to be kind of in control of, and he's going to Austinize it. You know, it's going to be
boiler suits everywhere.
Boiler suits everywhere, big sticks holding up tarps and all that sort of stuff. And I think that part of the festival is going to be an Austin experience, if you like. I think if those people who know of Austin will enjoy it. Those people who've never met him will enjoy the bonkers raving mentalism that is Austin as well, because it's an experience, and I think that's going to be a really exciting part of the festival this year.
When I called Austin to go through the details for the festival, he says, "What do you want from me, Mark? What do you want from me?" I said, "Oh, Austin, we spoke about doing some proper extraction of bikes, maybe some tripods. I don't know, use your imagination." It was, you want some Baden-Powell pioneering? Leave it with me. I was like, that's a done deal. Right, we'll just draw a line under that. You've got your direction. Brilliant. So expect some Baden-Powell and pioneering. So I am very excited about Austin coming. We love Austin. He's such a
character, really.
Yeah, I could listen to the guy for hours.
Yeah.
Now, I'm actually really excited about something which isn't bike related. I'm going to mention the Sundowners, because Jamie and I have obviously got military backgrounds, and the new site has a little bit of a drop off where the sun would set. Mm-hmm. So it's westward facing, and as the sun comes down in the military in the summer for certain events, we play the last post, we lower the ensign, we all have a toast, and it's a semi-formal, very short gathering. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to replicate that. Because we sponsor the Royal British Legion. We contribute so that some of the profits go towards Royal British Legion. It's really key to who we are. Yeah. We're both veterans, so let's celebrate that.
I love that.
Yeah, so we're going to do that, and that's going to be a little part of us without it being bikes.
Yeah.
And I think we've got a couple of little treats lined up, but maybe because Jamie's in charge of them and Mr. Disorganised. So
yeah, Jamie's going to be in his lovely little hotel room.
Jamie's looking at me going, "Oh yeah, treats." Oh.
Yeah. That night, all of a sudden, he's going to sit up and wait. He's going to wake up, and he's like, "Oh,
I haven't booked it."
I was meant to be doing something. There was something going on.
Yeah, roll over.
I think that'll be incredible. Genuinely, that'll be incredible. And as we did at the top of the show, was to the sort of memory of our sort of fallen comrades and people that are no longer with us. It's a nice nod to both our background and those within our new circle. Now it's it's just a little salute and a way of everybody to remember in their own way.
Absolutely.
And then move forward and enjoy the party and obviously celebrate everything that is adventure and travel and stuff after that as well.
Definitely. Most people have a connection with the military, either through either personally or through family or through friends. Most people have that connection, don't they? And people involved in the overland scene tend to be, that sort of respectful nature themselves. So it's a nice touching thing to do. Right, cheers to that one, Simon. Next one, Charlie Callard. Evening, gents. Hope you're all fitting well. So, questions. What is, in your opinion, the best the best lightweight adventure bike? Would it be the same bike for long and short distances? And how would you spec it up? What about a can of worms? Talk about that.
Huge question. It's a huge question.
Hour and a half to get to that. So,
that's a huge question. I mean, there's only one answer that's going to initially come out of our mouths, and that's got to be the CRF.
GS.
Either a 250, a CRF 250 or a 300. Yeah. And we've waxed lyrical about why that is. Because it's a jack of all trades, because it's reliable, because it's not going to kill you if you get it wrong, a bit like the Gasser will. It's reliable, it's affordable. Yeah. I mean, I think mine's worth a couple of grand. If it falls over into a massive rock, don't bat an eyelid, and bits are cheap for it.
They just keep going, don't they? They just get through everything.
They're like the donkey of the overland world.
Absolutely.
I love them.
Yeah.
I love them. But I wouldn't say it's the perfect overland bike. The perfect overland bike doesn't exist for me, I don't think. And I don't think it ever will for whatever reason I'm happy to go into, but I don't think it will. I guess I would go back to the old 80s. I'd try find a 450 carbureted, lightweight bike that I can fix. I don't know what that is, but that's what would be perfect for me, I think.
Yeah.
Like one of the old TT 500s or something.
All right.
Something like, or an XT 500.
What about yourself, Jamie?
There's one bike that does spring to mind. And I don't know if it is the perfect one, but it's definitely a bike that brought a big smile to my face. and I really enjoyed riding, and that was the Tailreg, the
You
Aprilia.
love that.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bike that I would definitely consider going back to. I think I definitely want to ride it again. I enjoyed the power of it. As we said, the CRF 250/300, brilliant bikes, but they can be a bit vanilla. They can be a bit boring. They can do everything, and they can also do not a lot of everything, depending on what you're trying to use them for. They will go over pretty much anything if you got a little bit of skill and able to get it over the sort of rocks and stuff. But they don't very often put a big grin on your face, and that is an area that they're lacking. I mean, come on, we're all bikers at heart. We all like it when you twist the throttle and you get that pull on your arms, and you're, oh, okay, yeah, puts that little grin on your face. I mean, that's one of the first things Mark said when he bought his gas, and he said, I feel excited about being on the trails again. And he lost that with the CRF 250 because you get used to it, and it's just old faithful, right? So I think something like a Touareg or something, I'd have to go and ride it again, but I think probably a slightly larger. My mate Stuart, when we bought the bike, said to me, he says, "Won't be long before we need something bigger." And I was like, "No, mate, this is exactly what we want. We only need this." And he's like, "I'm telling you," and he's right. There is. I think what you want from it changes over time. If you want just something to go long, actually, a 250 will do that. It won't be very quick, but it'll get there.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, actually, because Stu said to you, we were out riding around Derbyshire at the time, weren't we? He said, it won't be long before you want something bigger. Yeah. And you just said, nah, I don't need that. And that's the difference in world. What do you need to do perfect overlanding? You need a 250 CRF. It's perfect for what you need. What do you want? Oh, well, that's a whole bigger question, isn't it? 100%. A whole bigger question.
Like for me, I'm the type of person, I get enjoyment from proving people wrong. Like if somebody tells me I can't do something, or like that bike will never do that, nothing gives me more pleasure than either me doing it or making the bike do it. And I don't care.
You're a stubborn child.
Yeah,
You're just a stubborn child. You don't touch
stubborn.
the hot plate.
Yeah,
I'm touching the hot plate.
But I wasn't like that as a kid. Like I maybe I was. My dad would probably go, "Yes, you bloody are." But in my head, I felt like I was the goody two shoes kid. Like I did everything that I was told to do, and like was impeccably behaved. But I've found as I've grown up to become allegedly an adult, now I'm starting to push back, and I hate nothing more than someone telling me what to do. It's part of the reason I left the old bill. Like having somebody tell me what to do, and especially in do something which in my head was illogical and made no sense. I'm just like, nah, that's ridiculous. Like, tell me why it's that way. But if it doesn't make sense, I'm not fucking doing it. It's just not happening. So I am very much like that now. Hence why the Jigsaw for the big trip was just, it's the bike I owned. Everyone told me it couldn't be done, or no, you just, that's the wrong
shouldn't
bike.
be done.
Except Jacques Lucassen. Jacques Lucassen went, absolutely brilliant, fantastic, can't wait to follow. And in my eyes, it was like, awesome, right? I'm doing that then. So, yeah, for me, I think perfect bike. I would just pass on the advice he gave me. Take the bike that makes you smile. Just because at the end of the day, the bike's all you're going to have, isn't it? What do you want from your trip? Do you want?
I'm going to disagree with you. Don't take the bike that makes you smile, because I was just listening to you there thinking, what do I want from it? I like to suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
I actively enjoy that. So take the bar that doesn't make you smile. There was a reason I took a Chinese 150 scooter to the Czech border. There's a reason we ride 250s all the way to Spain. Almost, I like it to have to earn the adventure.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that, And the more it rattles and the more it makes you feel marginally uncomfortable, the more I feel like I've earned the right to do it.
That's what I was going to quantify it and say. It all depends what you want from that trip. If you want the most comfortable, practical experience possible from whatever trip it is that you're going to do, then by all means, take the bike that's tailored best for whatever it is you foresee coming. If you're going to be doing loads of road riding, then what's the most comfortable bike with the smoothest engine, the most comfortable seats and suspension? If you want to be doing a load of trail riding or off-roading, obviously you're going to tailor the bike and your kit towards that. But for me, and it sounds you're very much like that, Mark, is I like the personal challenge, and I like to be different and a little bit odd. I'm just kind of like that. I think it's why I do the endurance rides. That's what most people won't do that, or it's uncomfortable and it's not enjoyable at times. But I quite like that. It's like being a bit different. So yeah,
there was a reason we rode up to Skye. We rode up to Skye for a weekend on our little 250s because it was a bit mental, and you probably shouldn't. So it's the first thing we did.
I love all that.
I love the person. I mean, we walked the SAS selection route, the fan dance over the Penny Fan, and you put on a rucksack, a Bergen, weighs 50 pounds or 25 kilos, and you march 14 miles over a mountain. 7 miles there, 7 miles back. And we weren't in any way prepared for it, and we did it because it was there to be done.
Yeah.
And it was going to be awful. And we enjoyed it because it was going to be awful. That's definitely a military or a public service mindset, isn't it?
I think for me, like I do love a challenge. Like we both, we've done the sort of ride to Skye, and we always try to go as far as we can when we've got 2 weeks available. It's not, well, we've got 2 weeks. Well, let's go really enjoy this place really close intensely for 2 weeks. It's how far can we get south? How far can we get east? How far, whatever it might be. But I think for me, I would struggle to pick the perfect bike, and I think that's because it all depends on whether I want to do one or the other. If I either want to go out and do a challenge, and the challenge is whatever X, Y, Z, or I want to go and adventure. I think for me, I enjoy stopping. It's very simple stuff. I enjoy stopping somewhere with a nice view, just sitting having a coffee and chilling, having a chat.
Yeah,
and kind of just taking those moments. I really enjoy that side of travel, that side of life, that just sitting, absorbing, I suppose. And I think that's so whatever bike can get me to somewhere that's a little bit remote, or at least just got a beautiful view, well, then that's probably the perfect bike for me. And it almost doesn't matter at that point. That's also where Mark and I have some bickerings, because I'll want to keep stopping every 5 minutes and just sit and brew up and watch that, and you don't get very far if you do that all the time. So,
somebody once quantified this. I was at Motor Junkies. I'd gone down for their bonfire night, and I was speaking to a guy called Thom Ferry, and he asked a question.
Top lad, Thom.
Oh, isn't he brilliant? Love him.
Brilliant,
and he said, are you a biker that travels or a traveller that bikes? And I thought that sums it up. And Jamie and I, we've got one of each. I'm a biker that travels, and you're a traveller that bikes, I think. And we approach it differently.
He's a big idiot, but he speaks a lot of sense, Thom, doesn't he? A lot of sense.
Yeah, I've not heard any of it yet, but he probably does speak a lot.
He's probably saving it all for you, Bruce. He's not wasting it on us losers.
It's beer logic. I love his beer logic. It's brilliant. Live my life by it. Charlie's got a second question. If you had to have the same meal every Saturday night for the rest of your lives, what would it be?
Man,
I reckon it's got to be a curry, hasn't it? A Brit's got to enjoy a curry, surely.
No. No, it's a big, whether meat-free or meat-based, a big juicy hamburger. It's got all your food groups in there. You list it. It's got your food groups. It's got a bit of salad. It's got a bit of bread. Got a bit of meat or substitute. It's got everything. Big juicy burger. Oh, my mouth's drooling.
Steak, chunky chips, onion rings. Maybe some of that green shit. Yeah,
I'll tell you what, one of the first meals I did have when I came out here to the Middle East, because I wanted to enjoy the culture, is I went to an Irish bar and had a steak and ale pie, steak and Guinness pie.
Wherever you go in the world, Irish bar.
There's loads.
Then a WhatsApp sent me a very drunk WhatsApp message, didn't you?
No.
I'm happy to share it if we get 500 votes.
Yeah, here we go. I remember getting to Vladivostok, right? Crossed Russia. I got to Vladivostok, and there's an Irish bar. I ended up getting paralytic in an Irish bar in Vladivostok.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the water in those places, isn't there?
Yeah, it's something vodka. Wrong with the That's water. What it is.
I think that's where the joke was hidden, Bruce. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Sorry. We've been at this 2 hours. Come on. Charlie Callard, thank you very much for those questions, mate. Next one, Pete English. Pete's not
Pete.
left a question for ages. Right. Hi, guys. He always leaves good questions, Pete. Great to hear you're on the podcast. Hope we both fit in well. Always great to hear fellow lovers of the dirt like myself. Question 1. What 2 questions have you always wanted to ask each other? That's a brilliant question.
Oh, what a brilliant question. Well, I'll just I'm pointing at everybody with a spork because I've just picked it up. What I will precede this with is Jamie and I, we're best mates, but we're like brothers. I mean, genuinely, I do have a brother. My brother won't listen to this, but I'm closer to Jamie.
Wow.
And we speak about everything. I don't think there has been one subject which we haven't broached with one another. So that's a really, really difficult question because we've always asked a question. Mm-hmm. And we've got this brutal honesty with each other where it'll get to a point and I'll just go, what is this? And likewise, Jamie will. So
every single trip, there's been a point, trip, festival, every festival, there's been an argument as well, argument, discussion, whatever you want to call it, where we sort of not break down, where we effectively get to a point of going, right, something's got to change here. You know, we have to have that honest conversation. It happened on the way down to Spain. It happened on the way to Bosnia. We usually try to fuel it with a bit of alcohol because that makes the questions come a lot easier.
Yep, absolutely.
But we teach back at the academy in the Air Force. We used to teach brutal honesty between cadets, and the reason behind that is you can't expect anybody to get better if you don't tell them the areas that they're either falling down and areas to improve, or areas where you've got a problem between you. And we've kind of approached our friendship in that same way. So I genuinely can't think of anything that I would want to ask Mark that I've not already asked him that I would want to know the answer to, because I mean, I could say, why are you such a dick sometimes? But that's just his nature, and he probably would struggle to answer the question.
And I can't think of it. For the 4th week on the row, I'd have to come up with a different answer.
Another spreadsheet to explain it all. But I mean, that's like a good, close friendship. It is a relationship, isn't it? It is a relationship, like similar to a marriage, where like if you're that close with somebody, you're gonna fall out at some point, aren't you? You know, like feelings are gonna get to a stage where you have to address it. You've got to deal with it. So you either let it get to that stage and then boil over, or you sort of hit it head on and go, right, okay, something's happening here. Let's get it out.
There's never been a point where we've bickered and then gone silent.
Yeah.
You know, because we've been afraid to speak about it. We've bickered for sure, because we are that married couple. And maybe a day later, one of us will send a message or we'll pick up the phone. Yeah. It is that. It sounds really twin. It's almost like we're avoiding Pete's question, and I swear we're not. It's just that's how it's worked out. And you only find those friends once in a blue moon. Yeah. And I think I've only had this sort of level of friendship maybe once before. So when you find that person that you're incredibly close with, and not in a weird way, I guess you sort of nurture it and you make sure that you keep that honesty. Mm-hmm.
We had an occasion recently. Mark was really nervous to tell me something, but there was a good reason why he'd done what he'd done. So obviously, before I moved out here, my girlfriend, close family, basically arranged a surprise going away party for me. I had no idea. I'm the most oblivious person when it comes to. I'm not very observant, and I pretty much, if someone tells me something, I kind of go, all right. And my girlfriend's a bit nuts anyway, so she was buying all of these bloody fizzy drinks and loads of bags of crisps and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, my son was coming back for the weekend, and I knew that. I was like, he's only here for a weekend. Yeah. And she was like, but we need stuff. And I was like, well, okay, whatever. So kind of just let it go. And they'd arranged for me to go away with my daughter just for the day, a bit of a daddy-daughter day. And then when I come back, big surprise. And I was genuinely blown away. They'd flown my dad in from southern Spain and all sorts. It was amazing. But a couple of days before that, Mark and I had been invited to go riding with someone that we wanted to. But I don't know if I can release too much information because the video's not come out and all that sort of stuff yet. But we were invited to go riding with someone in a pretty cool place to go on a pretty cool adventure with someone that we wanted to ride with for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
And the email came into our joint lightweight adventurers box, and Mark had deleted it before I'd seen it, so I'd not caught wind of it. But he went away without telling me. Like a couple of days, he'd been gone for like 2 or 3 days. He said, "I'm going back to Norfolk to see the family and this, that, and the other." I was like, "Yeah, cool, okay, mate, have a great time," and all this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But he was then carrying this guilt of going, "I know Jamie would love this trip, but I can't let him come on this trip because otherwise we'll miss this big surprise party that's been planned for months." So he had to kind of keep it all a big secret. And then he went through the whole paranoia thing. And I was just, I think I'd just come back from a trip. We'd been on a trip over here about a month or so ago. And so I just got back with bits and bobs going on. And I was just like, "Hey, mate, have a great time. Say hi to your dad for me." And Mark's thinking, he never texts me saying that. He knows I'm doing something.
Oh man, he's going to think so much less of me because I've gone on this trip that we've wanted to do together for a while. And then as soon as we come back and we all went, "Surprise, Jamie, I've got something to tell you."
It was so funny. He was like, "Jamie, I've got something to tell you." I was like, "Oh, what is it?" He says, "Not now." I was thinking, Jesus, what's going on?
Yeah. What is
everybody around? Mate, I didn't tell you, but later on, my sister came up to me and went, "Is everything all right with you and Mark?" I was like, "Yeah, it's nothing. It was just this." And he told me, "Mate, we've been and done this thing." And I was like, "Oh, mate, that sounds like a great trip." Yeah, I'm gutted that I wasn't there, but it was the right call. But that whole thing, but that's just because our friendship is so important. But we're able to have those conversations. I said to him, "Yeah, you was right. You did the right thing. That's the right thing to do." Although I've still not forgiven him for deleting the email.
Just make a note of it at the back there. Bring it out when you need it. Just like a marriage. Just like a marriage. Pete's second question. Who are you most envious of and why? Oh, Pete, I've missed your questions, man. That's a cracker. Who are you most envious of and why?
I know straight out.
Go on.
Well, it's not one single person. It's a group of people. And you're one of them, Bruce. It's anybody that's circumnavigated the globe.
Right.
On a bike. I would give my left testicle to do that. But
why have you not done it?
Well, I feel I feel the burden of guilt, the selfishness of going to South America for 4 months, for leaving my wife, leaving the family, leaving the dogs, leaving her to look after this life that we've created.
Yeah.
So I can go out and have this personal, selfish, individual endeavour.
I get that.
And I feel selfish enough for doing that for 4 months, let alone for 6, 12, whatever it might turn out to be. Yeah. Plus, I can't afford it unless anybody wants to sponsor me. But it's mostly the guilt. Yeah.
I get that. Like, now I'm settled down, I'm married, and especially now because we've got the dog. Believe it, the dog has totally changed things now, in that my missus wasn't really that. We love each other and that, but she would never ever get in the way of me disappearing. She never got in the way of me disappearing for like a year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was. But now that there's something else there at home. So obviously the kids and stuff. Now there's something. I would find it really hard to disappear for like a big length of time. I've said on this podcast, I'm going to cycle around the UK, like the coastal way around the UK, and I'm going to do it. I said I'll do it, so it's going to happen. But I'm now at the point where I'm like, I'm a fat knacker. This is going to take at least 3 or 4 months, and I'm like, I don't want to be away from home for that length of time. But exactly what you're talking about, I'm like, I can't leave my missus to run the house and look after the dog for that length of time. So I get it. I totally get where you're coming from. That it's a big ask.
When I speak with people like you or Matt and Reese, we went out to dinner with them a couple of years ago, and they were telling us about how they cycled around the world. And I said to them, I'm really envious. And they said, "Well, you can't be envious of all the experiences you've had," and because we were sharing war stories and whatnot. I was like, "Yeah, but you can't underestimate. It's almost not like a want to do it. It's almost it's bordering on a need to do it." Yeah. And I can't. I'm wrestling within myself to even ask Katie, because I'm sure that Katie would go, "All right, if it's that important, you go," just like she has for South America.
Yeah.
But then it's on me, and I don't know if I can justify that.
South America is going to seal a deal then, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 South America's going to be the make or break for that, I reckon.
I've already started seeding that if South America goes all right and the houses run fine, then maybe just in a couple of years, we can do another trip.
Yeah.
Because I'd love to.
We've already got an amber light for Africa, haven't we?
Exactly that. Yeah.
So
exactly what I was just about to say. Go down through America, and then when Jamie's back, the grandmaster plan is you can hold us to this internet is to go down Africa.
Mega.
Is a plan.
Mega. Awesome.
I mean,
love it.
But I have to echo. I mean, the idea of anybody that's gone around the world. I mean, I suppose if I was going to be envious of anybody that's done that, it would probably be Austin Vince and the route that he took, because those routes aren't available at the moment, and they're not. It's not even that, but they're not available in the same way as they were back then, in a Christopher Columbus-esque biker way, and Austin doing his strange videography, climbing up telegraph poles and stuff. So I think that would probably be the sort of envy for that. But I also think that it's the way in which he did it. Like, Mark and I toyed with the idea, and we threw it around quite a lot, to do an around the world trip and try and do it in less than 3 weeks. And that was
around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, around the world.
We really contemplated if we could afford
the record's 19 days. To ride a motorbike around the world is 19 days. And we were thinking, right, what the Guinness Book of World Record, they won't let you attempt it because they think it's dangerous to do it any less. But we thought,
was that Nick Sanders' 19 days?
No, it's Julie and Kev and Julie.
Globebusters.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. But we talked with that idea, and that definitely sat in the camp of challenge. You know, like we were talking about earlier on, it very much sits in this challenge of, can we do it? Somebody else has done it, right? Well, then we can do it, and we're going to go and do it. And that's not a big chunk out of your time at home. It's less than 3 weeks, done and dusted. Get back to work on the Monday.
Think about everything you'll miss doing that.
And that's exactly where we got to, and that's kind of brings me on to the other side. That anybody that's travelled around the world and done it in a way that I think is meaningful has done it over a vast amount of time, rather than just get around the world in 2 or 3 months or whatever, you know, and just race around.
I won't know until I've done it, because almost, just to play on that again, if we went around the world in 3 weeks, I've got the badge of having gone around the world, and then I'm into the rest of it. But at least I've got that bit done. How strange is that approach? But I remember we spoke about it. Well, I'll have done it, and now I can really explore the rest of it. But you can't unless you're Nick Sanders. You can't go around 7 or 8 times, you know, because we haven't got the vast amounts of money needed to do that. But
I get that. It's interesting what you said there about Austin and, you know, days of old, where you were the proper intrepid adventurer. Have you ever heard of this guy, Chris Donaldson?
We shared a table with Chris at London a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you read his book?
We practically spoke about his book over a period of 3 days. Wow. It was amazing. And then we went out drinking with Chris, and that was a mistake as well.
He likes a beer. He likes
Yeah. He strikes me as a proper boy. Yeah. The audiobook is his nephew. It's his nephew reading out the audiobook, and it's awesome. I think I listened to it in 3 sittings. It was a lot. My poor dog got the legs walked off her. I was just walking and listening to this book for like 3 sessions. It's awesome. It's really well worth it. Well worth getting the audiobook and having a listen.
It's a great story, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing. And he did it in, was it 1980? Late 79,
late
80s he did it. Yeah, I mean, he
what's the name of his book for the listeners? What's the name of his book? The Wrong Way, isn't it?
Going the Wrong Way. He did it on a Moto Guzzi. Chris Donaldson.
The California, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. It's an amazing book. He's been on the podcast as well. Sadly, he's got early onset Parkinson's at the moment, hasn't he? But
yeah.
It was really interesting chatting to him. Really, really interesting.
Top bloke.
Yeah, and to think about those people back there, you know, Ted Simons and obviously Chris and God, everyone that did it back in those days, before Google Maps, before phones, before GPS, before like global media, the way we have it now.
I mean, even if you go back as far as you and Charlie, who did it 2004 or whatever it was, I can't remember the date. But even they didn't have the easy accessibility that we had. I mean, they had a lot more tech and they had a support crew, and even that looked nails.
Yeah.
So
True.
We have got it. It's the easiest it's ever been at the minute. But I would say it's probably the most expensive. I don't know if I'm right in saying that. I've got no proof. It feels like it's the most expensive and closed off than it ever has been as well.
Shipping's the most expensive, and obviously there's a booming industry in overland travel now in terms of, you know, visas, in terms of meds, all the kit that they tell you need. Everything costs a lot more now because there's so many people out there wanting to do it and going for it.
As I'm learning just about South America, the amount of meds that I've had to pay for, just it's eye-watering.
Well,
shipping, and I mean that. I feel like I'm getting a really competitive rate, but shipping is still it's a quarter of my budget.
Yeah,
at least. Like,
apparently, it's tripled from when I did it, 2012 to 14. I've been told. Do you deal with Kathy Wood? Over at,
Kathy and Shane. Yeah.
I've been told that prices have at least tripled from then, and you're like, Jesus Christ, wow. And not to mention fuel's going to be a lot more expensive now, certainly in developed countries or whatever. But, you know, great experience. Get out there, do it, get it done.
Yeah.
Cheers for that one. Next one, Two Bob Rocket. Good evening, gents. Question 1. What is your minimum level of kit that you'll take to the Americas? Well, to you, Mark.
Really interesting question, because I've been contemplating that just this week. Because when we went riding without Jamie in the secret road, I wish I could tell you. I don't know if I'm allowed to tell you, so I'm not going to. But the guy that I went riding with took practically nothing, and I was so envious. But we were only gone for 2 or 3 days, and I wrestle with myself as about how little will I actually go with, because I don't like to be burdened with equipment. It stresses me out. The more I have, stresses me out. And so I will strip it back down to the absolute bare minimum. And I've always said that if I can go for 3 weeks, as we did in Bosnia, I can probably go for 3 months with that kit.
Oh, yeah.
So that was, I mean, what did I take? In the levels of T-shirts, pants, and T-shirt and socks and all the rest of it, it's 3 pairs of everything.
That's exactly what I had.
Yeah, and I packed it all into about 60 litres. I got back and I weighed it. It was 13 kilos, everything all in. And even then I felt edgy that I probably had too much strapped to my bike.
Yeah. I set off with nearly between 60 and 70 kilograms of kit when I first set off. It's ridiculous. There's pictures of me on that jigsaw loaded up to the gunnels. And by the time I was sort of halfway across Russia, I remember literally dumping at least half my kit. Just dumping it all. And down to, stripped it down to 3 pairs of pants, 3 pairs of socks, I think 2 or 3 T-shirts, a fleece, zip-off trouser shorts, and a pair of flip-flops. That was it. That's you. That's you, right? You just wear it till it falls apart. Wash it whenever you can, and believe it or not, the shops, so you can go and buy another T-shirt if you need a T-shirt.
But what most people do is they just pack loads of just-ins, don't they?
Yeah.
And that's what fills it up. Yeah, you know, just in case, 100%. And I'll take this because I don't know, just in case.
Yeah,
just and that's what fills. I'm a nightmare because I like not a nightmare. I pack very different to Mark. I like. This is where my organisation does come in. I like different pouches and pockets, and I like to be able to learn where everything is and be able to access it quite easy. I like it to be as easy as I can make it. But then you end up, if you've got a pouch with nothing in it, almost feel obliged to put something in it because otherwise the pouch is, it's being wasted.
You may as well fill it. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly, yeah. But what we do find is when there's 2 of us, life's quite nice and simple because we can split everything, like Mark will take the tools and I'll take all the cooking gear. So actually it's split over 2 bikes. So we're always together. As soon as you're on one bike, well, now you need a set of tools. Now you need your cooking gear. Now you need your food, tent, sleep, and everything. And actually, all just the real life support, annoyingly, is such a big bulk on a bike, and it's really difficult to get that down. There's only a finite amount of compression you can give. You can throw a load of stuff away, but you still need the basics. You need something to cook on, something to actually cook, something to fix your bike, the bare essentials and all that. So it's quite difficult, isn't it? To pack it down any further than that. There's almost like a point where, well, that's it. Can't go any less.
Yeah.
Speaking with like-minded travellers that have gone and done well, predominantly Africa recently or other trips, their advice is anywhere between 70 and 90 litres will probably be the sweet spot, which is 2 panniers and a small bag up top. 90 litres isn't a lot. It sounds a lot, but it's not. You can buy a 90-litre rucksack. So I use the Magadans, the Adventure Spec Magadans, and I've got a little bag. I've got a couple of choices for bags to go on the top, and then that will be me. But I think you just ran through my kit list there. 3 pairs of everything, pair of flip-flops.
That's it. But Two Bob's got a good second question. He says, what level of first aid training do you consider essential, or you just fly by the seat of your pants? Well, obviously you got your military, so there's the first aid training from that. But are you doing anything extra in terms of training, or what sort of first aid kit are you taking with you?
So the military first aid training that they give you, I think, is probably the perfect level of first aid training that you should get, because it is for dealing with yourself and then others in a hectic situation. So could I splint my own leg? Could I apply a tourniquet?
I was going to ask, you taking a tourniquet with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Could I do all of that myself? Yeah, because we get tested on it every single year. Yeah. So that's almost second nature. I don't know if there's those sort of courses available civvy. I actually don't know if they've ever existed, because I've never had to look at them. So will I take a regular first aid kit with a few paracetamol, drugs, whatever? Not drugs, I'm going to Colombia, don't say that. But paracetamol, ibuprofen, plasters, regular things. And then probably similar to which goes in my combat first aid kit when I go out on ops, a tourniquet, maybe a blood clot pad, and a few basic things, just in case that major trauma and I'm out on my own.
Gaffer tape.
And then a gaffer tape. Gaffer tape and a stick if you've broken your ankle.
Seals a cut, doesn't it? Or you can make a nice sort of splint from that with whatever you find.
Yeah, 100%.
That's recent events. I'll not go into detail, but recent events, I always have a first aid kit with me, but that was absolutely no use for what I had to deal with there. And in my heart of hearts, I know that I do not have the level of training to deal with what would have been necessary there at the scene. So it's only a paramedic or a doctor that could deal with that. And as a civvy, you're just not qualified. You'd be opening yourself up to the courts to deal with that. But it's things like a tourniquet. I haven't got a tourniquet, like a proper tourniquet in my first aid kit. And that made me think, well, geez, in another situation, I could need something like that. A tourniquet could save my life or save the life of somebody else. But then in my head, I'm like, as a civvy, if I apply a tourniquet to somebody else, geez, am I leaving myself liable? And that made me think about, are there courses available that I could go on and get qualified?
I'm sure somebody legally trained will tell me this, but I've done a couple of civvy-based first aid courses as well as all my military stuff. And the general principle is if you're doing something which a reasonable person would be considered the right thing to do to help the person, you will be held up, you will be defended in court. So if you're applying a tourniquet because you've had a level of training and you know that you've placed it probably thereabouts right, I think you'll be okay. I would rather, and I've always said this, I'd rather take the risk of helping save that person's life than not try because of worry to go to court. I'm sure the law would look after me. I do have that much level of faith. I know somebody else is going to tell me otherwise. But
I think in civilian life,
look after myself.
I think in civilian life, I think the law would err or side with you. Coming from the old bill, I'm not as convinced that if I was to, as a copper, if I was to have done something because it was something that I thought was the right thing to do, but I hadn't been specifically trained in doing that, you'd be hung out to dry for sure.
Yeah, of course.
But as a civvy, I think you would get looked after for sure.
I think where people go wrong with first aid is that we buy a first aid kit from Boots or wherever, and it's all little bits and bobs, splinters, cuts. You need that sort of stuff because it's just frustrating and annoying. But first aid kit, when we're on bikes, you're dealing with trauma. Probably that's when you need it. Holes, punctures, breaks. These things. So you're not going to sort that out with a blue Band-Aid. So don't take it for that. Take a first aid field dressing, as we would call it. Take some blood cut agent if you're confident to use it. Take a tourniquet, because I mean that's what we're taught to use on a battlefield. So I'm confident in that. But a bit of common sense goes: if I were to come across a really bad accident, me or somebody else, is my little pair of tweezers and blunt scissors gonna cut it?
It's true. It's absolutely true, and you won't actually seriously think about this till you find yourself in that situation where you're going to have to do it. And sadly, these situations arise. I'm now in my head. I'm like, I want to do something with the likes of Biker Down. I think I'm going to approach Biker Down now and just go, look, explain the situation and just say, for me myself, I would like some proper tailored instruction on what can possibly be done for certain situations like we've just spoke about, and what sort of first aid kit would you recommend, so I can actually get a proper biker's first aid kit together and then get that out to people and go, have this with you. Just a little plug for the festival. Plug for the festival. That's exactly the workshop that we're intending to have. Happy days. I think that's so important. I think that really is so important now. Yeah. Anyway, let's not delve on that. There's 2 more questions on Patreon, and then there's a couple over on Instagram and Facebook. I'm very conscious of the time. Shall we do these 2, and then you can have a natural break, go for a pee, because we're all men of a certain vintage these days, and then tackle the next couple of questions over on Insta and Facebook. How's that sound?
Yeah, that sounds awesome to me.
Everybody.
Right, awesome. Right, last 2 on the clan. Louise Worsfold. How you doing, Lou? Evening, gents. Safe travels to the Americas. I have just one question. What is the other person's most annoying habit? Oh, people love this, don't they?
It's because we're double acts. They always think that we do things to annoy each other. I can't think of a single thing that Marc does. No,
you can. Hold on. I knew this question would come up.
He's got a spreadsheet.
I've told you about the thing that bugs me too many times. Go on, you take a guess. Let's do Mr. and Mrs.
Marc's probably going to say something about my faffing.
Yeah. Well,
you're a faffer.
I am a faffer. Yeah, I'm a faffer, and my timekeeping's not great.
Yeah.
So I'm a faffer. I'm the one when we get the bikes ready in the morning. I'll sort stuff out, and then I'll have to change it, and I'll do something else, and I'll forget something. And so I faff about. Definitely. Yeah.
That's 100%. Well, you would have scored a point for us there. Well done. And I reckon Jamie's going to say my, I don't know what the word is, my strong-headedness, my want to say this is how it is going to be done. And actually, I hear your stubbornness. It's a need to control to an extent, but it's like, oh, this is how it's going to be done. Oh, I hear your opinion. It's happening this way.
You sound like my wife.
Yeah, that's another point for the team.
You're both aware of that, and yet you still work. You got the perfect marriage, you two. You do, it's a perfect relationship, isn't it?
We do, and I think there's tolerances in there because I mean, if I was it sort of sits in line with that is we pitch a lot of ideas to each other. We pitch a lot. And Marc knows when I'm not convinced by his idea, I go, okay. Whereas Marc will be much more direct and go, Whereas I pitch an idea and Marc will go, nah. that can be quite frustrating, especially if it's the 7th idea in a row that I pitch.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. But the best thing about it is that a couple of days later, or even a little while later, he'll pitch the idea back to me. I'm like, oh, that's what I said to you. And he'll go, yeah, okay. And it's normally because he's in a mode of thinking about something else. And I think rather than kind of think this one through, he's like, no, he just wants to crack on with this idea, get this squared away before then exploring stuff. Whereas my brain tends to dart around a bit more. And maybe I need a spreadsheet. I don't know.
Get yourself a spreadsheet, mate.
I think I'm quite like you, Marc, in that I have an idea in my head and I just focus on that. And although the Jamies of the world will be in the background saying, "What about try this, try that?" I'm almost just like, yeah. But I'm focusing on that. This is the way to go. But eventually, those words get into my head, and you're like, oh, actually. But it takes a while. I have to be told, and then, like my wife knows, she tells me something, leaves me alone. And then at some point, I'll come to the same conclusion that she came to like 3 days ago. Yeah. And you're like, oh, yeah, okay.
And then I will not have it that it was their idea in the first place. No, I have figured this out. I have all on my own because I'm a genius.
Yeah, exactly. Good question, Luke, just for that.
That's a good question.
Good question.
Last one, Dave, this sidecar dog. Dave, this sidecar dog.
Oh, Christ.
Dear
yes,
some people.
But no.
Marks and Spencer's.
Right,
You'll know what that means. That'll be the answer.
I hope everyone is well, etc., and all the usual pleasantries. Question 1 from Mark. Do you think Belgian laybys make excellent parking places? And what's your favourite kind of scooter? Come on.
Oh, he's a scumbag, isn't he?
Belgian laybys, do tell.
If anybody's watched my Elephant Treffen video, they will see a point where the scooter is parked in a Belgian lay-by because we practically had to rebuild the engine.
Okay.
How do I? The bike left the lay-by.
Right. Come on, you got to elaborate.
No,
look at Jamie's face. Look at Jamie's face. Jamie, do you want to say something on this?
The bike went down the road. We've all seen the video evidence. The bike went into the lay-by. The bike was worked on. The bike left the lay-by.
Were you with the bike, Mark?
Bruce, listen to me. The bike went into the... Okay.
Has said scooter been reunited with yourself?
Look, Bruce, he's told you the bike left the lay-by.
Look, the bike went into the lay-by. The bike was worked on. The bike left the lay-by. Okay. We've all seen the video. Go and check the video.
All right. Events ensued. Things
Links
happened.
Links down below, folks. Question 2 for Jamie. As you are ever so slightly vertically challenged, have you ever considered using 3 wheels instead of 2 so you could ride whatever bike you liked? Which bike would you choose to have a side chariot on?
Brilliant.
Oh, that is a good question, isn't it? That is a good question. I think probably we've kind of talked about the CBR, so I think that would be a bit of a cop-out answer, wouldn't it? Although I think it would be a brilliant setup, like an off-road sports bike sidecar. I think that would be
proper Mad Max.
Yeah, I think that would be quite cool.
What about Rocket 3 with a sidecar on it?
Oh, I tell you what. Yeah, I think I've also got a Harley in my garage, and I think some sort of pedals forward control, big raked out Harley type thing with a sidecar on it.
Would you have monkey bars?
Actually, Mark's got some, and they're ever so slightly too big, and now he's getting annoyed by them because his arms are all the way up.
I've got a big Dyna Fat Bob, and I put massive apes on it. They look incredible, but they're probably just an inch or two too high. It's fixable, but I'm up like this, and they look so badass. But it's not brilliantly comfortable.
They do look good, though. They do look good. So yeah, okay. Let's go for a raked out Harley with a sidecar. I think that'd be pretty cool. That would be nice. And I can definitely swing my leg over on a Harley. They're not too high for me.
Coming to a lay-by near you soon. Also, what's your favourite cheese?
Oh, he loves this question. He loves this question, doesn't he? Oh, what a brilliant question.
I went to Amsterdam not that long ago for the first time. My girlfriend took me back end of last year, and we went on a bit of a cheese trip after going around the windmills and went to some cheese making. And I think, and I'm not going to say Edam as they pronounce it over there, but actually I enjoyed the Gouda as they pronounced it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
The Gouda.
Yeah, Gouda, or the bloke shouted at me for saying that. So yeah, it's Gouda. So I would go for that one. I think that's probably my favourite cheese at the moment.
I had a recent cheese experience. and we were up on a mountain in the lakes, and Jim, the other guy in our team, had bought the night before, kept a surprise from us, a little bottle of white wine and like 3 or 4 other cheeses, and in his jet boil, he made a fondue.
Oh,
I've
never had a fondue.
No, nor had I until this moment. And then I had one with 3 good mates up on a mountain in the Lake District.
Mint.
Made in a jet boil, and it was mint. So I think Jim's going to demonstrate how to cook that. These are all plugs for the festival, but Jim's going to make that one at the festival. So, but it was just brilliant, and it made a bit of a mess of his jet boil, but it was surprisingly easy to clean. It just peeled off when it was cold, you know.
So, what would be your cheese of choice for the fondue?
Well, I think there's very specific cheeses that go into a fondue, isn't there?
Oh, is there?
I think so, yeah. Or at least there's guidelines. They're not my individual favourite cheeses. I like a Stilton, or I like quite a strong cheese.
Yeah.
On crackers with a bit of caramelised onion chutney.
Absolutely,
Oh,
yes.
Is that your thing then? Is it, Bruce? Are you a strong, smelly cheese man?
I like stinky cheese with like pickled onion on it, or like a nice, decent sort of relish with it. Yeah, for sure. But I also like my dad in the 80s. My dad worked in Norway when the oil kicked off, so he used to come home with big blocks of, I think they call it chocolate cheese. It's like a goat's cheese, but they called it a chocolate cheese. So it's just like a big square of caramel. And he used to cut it into it's like a chocolate bar. And it was amazing. But it was cheese. And it was just absolutely stunning. So, yeah, it's probably part of the reason I'm a fat knacker, was because I lived on about 900 weight of some kind of cheese in the 80s. But, yeah, it was
You just proved how old you were by saying 900 weight. I mean,
And he got it for a farthing.
Yeah. I won't. No, let's not even go there. Right, that's all the questions over in the clan. So there's some more now over in Instagram and Facebook. Do you need a natural break?
I'm good personally, but
I'm actually fine, yeah.
These young men, you see, they've got good, strong bladders.
Bruce, this is a great question. How old are you? Should we take a guess?
I am 47.
I was going to say 46.
Yeah, 47 I am. Yeah.
Oh, there you
Not
go.
48
You're nearly
yet.
You're nearly that, aren't you, Jamie? You're 44, 45, aren't you?
45.
49?
Yeah.
49?
Are you?
45, yeah. Just turned 45 in April.
Wow. You've had an easy life, haven't you?
Mate, it was an easy paper round, you know, straight and narrow.
I had 900 weight in my bag.
I don't know how much that is. I don't know if that's impressive.
I don't either, actually. I've got absolutely no idea. Right, we'll fire across onto Instagram. Again, all the links for the chaps, they'll all be down below. Make sure you give them a like, a follow, subscribe, all the rest of it. We are nearly 2.5 hours at the moment, so we'll try and pick the pace up on these gents, because I don't want to keep you all night here.
Are you saying we're boring, Bruce? Is that what you're saying?
Not at all, but it's like we're definitely going to hit 3 hours here, and I don't want another Mossy where we're still here at 1 a.m. going through stuff. Right.
Well, that's
David
not that
Guest.
far away from me, so...
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Well, we'll cut it at 3 hours then. We'll get there. David Guest 19. Hi, Bruce. Question for you and those couple of lightweights. When planning a trip, I struggle to get my head around balancing seeing a country's culture versus maximising the riding. How do you all prioritise between 1, seeing great scenery and capturing some great pictures or video, 2, engaging with the local communities and immersing yourself in the cultures, 3, finding challenging, rewarding roads or routes, and 4, getting the maximum miles under your belt for the time spent away? Cheers, guys. Keep up the good work. That's a good question. So,
Brilliant question.
Yeah. I'll pass that to you guys first.
It's a brilliant question, and we fell out about it in Spain. That was one of the incidents. That was one of those turning points. We had a proper sit down because we had ventured my way of getting maximum miles under our belts and finding the challenging roads and staying away from people. And Jamie wanted not less challenging roads, but an enjoyable ride, less miles, find people, and so the perfect balance I don't think exists. You know, the perfect blend. I mean, what is a perfect blend? Flipping Nora, we certainly didn't find it.
I think I think after the few adventures that we've done, you almost need to have phases and allow your trip to blend into a few different phases. You know, your first phase
Absolutely.
might be distance, right? I just want to. Every time we go anywhere into Europe, Mark's first statement, without doubt, is right. Let's blast through France, get that done.
Yeah.
Get that out of the way.
Every single time, it's just like just get it done, get it out of the
Mhm.
way. Fine, okay. So we always accept that, and then weirdly, really enjoy coming back up through France at the end and
It's
wanting
amazing,
to
yeah.
spend as much time as possible because we blast through France and go, oh my God, this place is lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's slow it down. But I think if you can give yourself almost a few phases and allow yourself to, well, what do I want to achieve now? It doesn't have to be for the whole trip. It could be for the next couple of days. I just want to get some distance. Oh, now actually, I want to meet a few people and
Mhm.
enjoy that a bit, or I want to write a little bit of wildness and sort of disappear. I think we started doing that a little bit more on our Bosnia trip by accident, and I think you you almost just got to let the trip dictate what's going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
if you're in a campsite, you're going to meet people. You're probably going to bump into someone. You might have a beer with a new person and actually hear a cool story or something.
That was going to be
But
my piece of advice is don't see it as I've got 2 weeks to adventure. See it as I've got 14 adventures and almost take day by day. You know, if I want to blast today, I'll sit on the motorway today. Tomorrow's a different day. It doesn't matter. You know, don't see it as a holistic picture.
Yeah. I think from a personal perspective, I think you have to be very realistic with your expectations for the trip. Like if you are not the most sociable of people, are you likely to get into a town or village and just go up to random people you've never met before, or walk into a shop, or like just approach random people and engage them in a conversation? Or are you not that type of person and you want to be, you want to try what it's like? Are you going to do it? So sort of, I would always suggest that if you're the type of person that wants to be social and stuff, then you have to tailor the trip around that. If that's what you want from the trip, then you've got to put yourself into those situations, haven't you, where that's likely to happen. Conversely, if you're not really that fussed about mixing with locals and you're not really into the whole sightseeing thing, and you just want to go and experience the road and the ride and the feeling of being on the road, then then you get down to, okay, well, what sort of mileage can you do? Are you used to doing? What is comfortable for you? Some people 100 mile in a day. That's them. They're sorted. Fine, no dramas at all. Other people, if they've not done 400 or 500 miles in a day, then they feel like shortchanged, don't they? So I think you just need to be honest with yourself about what sort of trip you want, and then just plan it accordingly. Where you're going, where you're staying.
We actually made a podcast about this when we got back on our podcasting about set your expectations before you go away, because I think people before they go on adventure just want to fling the doors open and go, see what the world gives us.
Yeah.
Sure, but you've got to have a modicum of structure. I'm not saying you need to plan it in depth, but you've got to know what you want out of it. Are you wanting just to get to the other side of Europe, or are you wanting, jeopardy or uncertain circumstances?
Yeah.
Because they're both different things. But like you say, just be honest with yourself, because the chances are you're not going to have both. Unless it comes by chance.
Yeah, and it depends what sort of trip. If you are on that archetypal big global adventure where you're going to be away for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, then you've got the time there to develop as a person. You might not be the most sociable person. I wasn't when I first left, but you can become that person over a period of time through various different situations that travel just throws at you, and you deal with it however you're going to deal with it, and take the course of action that comes your way as a result of that. Or are you just going to be on the road for a weekend? Is your trip going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a week, 2 weeks? What is it? You've got to be, like you said, got to be realistic, haven't you, with what are the actual limitations of this trip, and what
100%.
and you as a person. Yeah, just do it, Deri.
Really,
Just
really
hit
hard,
the
really
road
hard
and go,
question
mate.
to answer.
Yeah,
Just,
it is.
I think
Do just point your wheel.
it's pretty much expectation management, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of the key to happiness, isn't it? If your expectations are up here and you only ever get here, you're going to be annoyed or fed up. If you can be realistic in your expectations, I'm going for a weekend, probably not going to get to the other side of Peru in a weekend, and I'm probably not going to become the best person at speaking to everyone if I don't really like speaking to everyone in the space of 3 days.
Yeah.
But you can probably see some pretty cool things in the Lake District. You can probably see a remote place and some wildness, or you can go camping in a place where there's going to be similar people if that's what you want. So just identifying what those are, and then you can try and manage those expectations to be able to realise them.
Yeah, you can push your boundaries, can't you? Like, as you said, pop up the Lake District and camp somewhere. And when you get when you're camping in a campsite, walk into the bar and just start chatting with random people and see where it goes. See how that takes you.
Go and seek adventure. Don't just let it happen to you.
Yeah, absolutely. 78 Outlaw. Cheers, Bruce. Keep up the great podcast. A question for the lads. Why has the industry moved to make heavier and more performance road-orientated ADVs that resemble spaceships instead of offering more capable, lightweight adventure bikes that can also tour? Are we at the start of the shift to lighter? I'd love to see proper retro scramblers that weigh less than 200 kilograms. For example, the Desert Sled. Cheers, John. Right, so this is something that's brought up all the time, isn't it? Is modern adventure bikes are big, heavy, technology-laden beasts, aren't they? Why is that?
Money.
Yeah. People
are
paying for it, aren't they?
They sell, and they've got huge margins on it. What's a Honda CRF sell for? 6K? If you don't mind me asking, what's the rough price of your 1300 GS?
I paid 21,495, but if you listen to other people chat, it's like 24 grand. I don't know how they've spent 24 grand. They must have got shiny bits put on it, but
the more you spend, the bigger the margin.
Yeah,
the bigger the margin, and when marketings tell you need a big bike, more people go out and buy the big. I'm going to call it a status symbol. In some people's case, it will be.
It is, yeah.
And so more and more people will say they need that versus they want that. So the market produces more, makes more money.
Yeah.
I think it's
the Range Rover, isn't it? It's the Land Rover, Range Rover of bikes, adventure bikes. You're buying into an image and a perceived way of life without actually doing it, aren't you, effectively? Yeah.
But also, you've got things like the long way round, long way down, always done, big, huge, impressionable shows done on big bikes. If Ewan and Charlie jumped on a couple of CRF 300s and went and did a big trip, I bet there'd be a lot of people start to realise, oh, okay, maybe it's a small bike then. Or if they jumped on some, I don't know, gas or whatever, all of a sudden, there'd be a shift in that way as well. But like I say, there's just not the money margins in smaller bikes because it just doesn't exist because it's not got all the bells and whistles.
Yeah. And it's probably also a different way of the manufacturer staying viable in Europe. The smaller, lighter weight adventure market, I suspect in Europe, is quite small. We think it's big because we're talking thousands, but it's actually quite small. A bike that works in Asia and Africa, where they use them par for the course, well, they're going to make that because they can sell tens of thousands of them, and it will come to UK. So like the CRF and the little 125s. But they're not going to make a bike just for Europe, I don't believe.
No.
Or North America. Maybe for combined markets, but then you've got too much risk, haven't you? So it needs to work in one of the secondary bigger markets for it to come to us. Or you make a high margin bike for one of the niche markets. Europe is a niche market, I consider, where you've got your margins. So is it possible? Yeah, I think it's possible. No, I was just saying, I think it's possible, but I don't think there's the benefit for a manufacturer to develop the unicorn bike.
Yeah, yet. Yeah. I think like the modern big adventure bikes, the reason there's a market there is such a big market for that now is because if you look at the demographic of the typical biker in the UK, they are people like us and older. It's everyone who's gone through the 80s and the 90s of the superbike era. Well, we're all 40, 50, 60, 70 years of age now, and the modern adventure bikes give you comfort but with pretty much the same level, if not better, performance for road riding, than you used to get from the sport. All right, you're not going to be doing 180 mile an hour unless you're on like a Ducati or sort of KTMs. But for road riding, these big adventure bikes are effortless, and they allowed you to carry, the other half on the bike as well as a shit ton of luggage, and pop right down to Spain if you want, or across Europe if you want. You can do that.
Convenient, aren't they?
Yeah, you can have your slice of the long way around dream for 20 grand, which is still a shit ton of money, but you can buy into that and have some fun. But I do think it's changing. I see a lot of people, certainly my sort of ilk, mid to late 40s into their 50s. I see a lot of people starting to push towards smaller CC bikes. Maybe not your 125s and your 250s, but there's a lot of people moving to like the 900s and the 750s. And again, maybe that's age. As people are getting a bit older, 250 kilograms is a bit too much for them to hang out, hold on to and deal with. The bikes are a little bit too high. So people are starting to look at smaller CC. And I wonder if that's going to have an impact on the UK market.
I think it's still interesting that we consider in 780 or a 900cc smaller.
Small. That's ridiculous.
It's enormous. I've got one of the biggest capacity trail bikes you can buy at a 700, and even that's too much. I know it's too much.
Yeah.
A 450 is probably the sweet spot, I suspect. 140 kilograms, 450, 40 brake horsepower, all the fours, is probably there or thereabouts the sweet spot for what we do. But with such a niche market in the grand scheme, I don't know if the demand is big enough to warrant the R&D.
Yeah. I've got a vid coming out soon. Pete English that was on here, and Simon Lewis and a whole load of other lads that are all part of my clan, and I know they have this great community that they've developed themselves, where they've all gone and bought themselves 250s, 350s, 400cc bikes, and they just go and hit the Tet all around the UK. So I went up to Northumberland and I did a stretch of the Tet with them last year, I think it was. Pete loaned me one of his, that CRF 300. So is it CRF 300? Yeah, the Honda 300.
Yeah.
He lent me that, and Jesus Christ, I was just hanging on for dear life on it. But those lads are doing it weekend out, weekend out. And they're having such a ball on these smaller CC bikes and just loving it. Properly howling with laughter the entire time they're doing it. Stacking the bikes left, right and centre, but just loving it. And, I can see that growing quite a lot, actually, in my
the real life experience says you probably only need 250 cc's to have the best time of your life. Marketing, big agencies, everything that's put in our faces probably tells us you need 1200.
Of course. Yeah. And more now. Have you seen that new R20 that BMW?
Absolutely
the
crazy.
Concept. Yeah, I know. 2 litre.
Here's me, big hypocrite. My Harley in the garage is a 1.7. It's a 1700. But it's a very different machine, It's
It's definitely not an adventure bike, that.
Oh no, of course it's not. Some mania, if they actually make that R20, if they do come out, because it's just a concept at the moment, isn't it? But if they actually do make it and launch it, somebody's going to chuck some knobblies on it, and that thing will be down a green lane at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cheers for that one, Outlaw. Real Schwerty, evening all. With so many riders always talking about light adventure bikes, how come there are only so few available? Similar question. Those still weigh around 200 kilograms and have only 40 horsepower. Who wants this? What do you guys think about the CF Moto 450 or the Cove 450 in terms of quality, reliability, dealer network, and parts availability? I've never ridden any of them.
No, same.
No experience.
I've seen them. Know people who own the Cove 450. I think the first question is interesting. 200 kilos. I think 160 kilos is almost the minimum you can make a half decent bike nowadays with all the restrictions. I wonder if we get too mixed up on this panacea of 120 kilos bike that we remember from the 90s when it was carburetors, when it had zero electronics on it. Now we've got Euro 6 with catalytic converters, big exhaust cans, carbon recyclatories, plus all your electrics, your ABS pumps. two same bikes, but one with Euro 6 and one with none, is going to be 20, 30 kilos difference. It just is. So maybe it is the same bike already. We're just laden safety on it.
Yeah.
But a similar question, why haven't they made one with 140, 150 kilos? They almost have. My gasser is 155 kilos at 75 brake. There's your answer, I think.
Yeah. People start buying them in bulk, are they? So
yeah, no.
Yeah.
So,
but that's still a really dialed in high performance bike, isn't it? Your gas, the 701, the 690, they're all really hyper focused and obviously ready to race, as KTM's tagline is. I think what KTM do really well is they sit the weight really nicely in the bike. So all of those bikes seem to wear their weight really nice. The 1290 even wore all of its weight right down, like below the wheels somehow. It just felt really easy to maneuver. It must weigh about 18 tons because it's a huge bike, but it felt nimble, So I think KTM do that really well. So you're probably right. The gas is probably the closest. It's still a very dialed in bike though. It's not a long distance tourer necessarily. Will actually absolutely do it. We've got friends that have done long distances on the 701s, and it's the same bike essentially.
Yeah,
it's interesting when you hear all this the complaints about big adventure bikes, and there's so much almost vitriol out there about it, but everyone's buying them. Like if people are given the choice between the smaller one and the bigger one, what are people actually spending the money on? Well, at the moment, they're spending the money on the big adventure bikes, aren't they? So,
and I do think, because even we've seen it a little bit, bigger is better. I don't believe that necessarily, but we do see that perception from other people or other groups. Oh, you've only got a 250. Oh, you're riding a 300. You might not get that line directly, but it's certainly a perception that we feel. There is definitely I think there is a level of status linked to bigger bikes. It just is, and you're a proper adventure rider if you've got a slightly bigger bike. You speak to some people.
I don't listen to them.
And if you can manhandle a proper big adventure bike down the trail, you're a better rider than if you're riding a.
Most of them can't even get the bloody things off the amount of geezers I see that can't get a big bike off of the side stand. You're like, why have you got that bike if you can't get it off the side stand? You know what I mean? But
I think Mark's right. I think it's an understanding of what the different bikes bring, isn't it? And what the different size engines bring. That's fundamentally what people need to educate themselves on more. I went and did a trials. Have you ever done trials riding?
No, I've not. No.
I went and did a trials day a few weeks ago. Maybe it's a couple of months ago now, and I was on a little 250 there. But that thing had so much torque, so much power, all at the bottom end. It was never going to scream down a motorway at 90. Yeah. But when it was designed really well for what it needed to be doing, what it wanted to be doing, and what it was supposed to do, hop over rocks and sort of get yourself out and sort of be able to wheelie really easy and all that sort of stuff. But it's just understanding what different things bring to the party. And when I spoke to the guy down there, I said, what sort of size would you need for it? If I was going to go and buy one of these, because I was hooked straight away, because it's brilliant. If you've never done trials, go and do a trials day. It will bring your riding on so much. And he was like, he says, you don't need any more than 250. 250 is like the top end. You can get slightly bigger, but don't need it.
Yeah.
But it's all about knowing for what you're going to ride. You don't need a 1290 to go down a green lane. It's just not necessarily 250 perfectly fine. The 700's probably about the sweet spot. People take 900. We know people that love a 900 down the lanes, and they can handle them, of course. But it's a better understanding of what the bikes can bring and what you necessarily need.
Yeah,
I really hope the coves, the 450 coves, they're onto something, and I really hope they come out good. The friends that I know who have the Cove 450 Rally, I've sort of said, give it a couple of years. I want to see how it fares over a good old-fashioned British winter. And unfortunately, I follow a couple of the forums, and I'm seeing a couple of little niggles come out. But I'll confess, they're a brand new bike, like you said. You're going to get that.
Of course you will. Of course you will.
I'm vying for him. I'm willing the underdog on. I'm not there at the minute. I'm not convinced at the minute. but I want it to do well because it will challenge all the other manufacturers.
I think there's going to be a big. I've just got this feeling that there's going to be. I think the day of the 700 to 900cc bike is rapidly approaching. That's what I think. I think how the like the 1150, 1200cc, that era that we're currently in, I think the 900cc is round the corner for the UK, especially. I think there's just
maybe
they're just. I think if people can get over, like we just discussed, if people can get over the sort of macho-ness of, I've got the 1200 or the 1300 or, Christ, it's almost going to be a 1400cc soon, isn't it, when the 1390 KTM Super Adventure comes out, which is going to be an amazing bike. That is going to be an amazing. I don't want to ride that because that'll probably end up my garage.
I still want to ride it. I still want to take it out and see what it's like.
I love my 1300, but it's not a KTM. And I said that to the bloke in the dealership today. I was just like, I love the 1300, but it's still not a KTM in terms of like grin factor and just smile. The smile factor is still not there. But anyway,
they've still got something in their recipe, haven't they? Got something in their recipe that just does bring a smile to you. I mean, look at Grinning Boy on the screen there. He loves his KTM, but
I think I'm going to have to go on orange at some point for sure. But, yeah, I'm tied in for
maybe
a couple
we'll
of
get
years.
together. Maybe we'll get together. Maybe we'll get together, Bruce, and you can have a shot on the gasser.
Oh, don't! Yeah. Oh, Jesus!
I'll take the beamer. I'll follow you.
yeah. Cheers. Last one, Waldini. Waldini, question for you and the lads: what's the most random place you've ever woken up? Wow!
Brilliant.
Random place.
What, in any situation?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, alcohol's going to be involved.
Up. Oh, God, yeah. Without a shadow of a doubt. Random place.
This is good podcasting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dead silence.
I've woken up underneath.
Interesting for the listener.
I've woken up underneath a Tornado Fighter.
Oh, you went straight away. Go on.
Yeah. But I knew I'd gone to sleep underneath it. My friend woke up in the intake, intake. I used to work on Tornadoes. And we'd had this hangar bash, and there was a jet parked in the hangar. And a few of us younger lads stayed right to the end and finished all the tinnies off. And we just sort of kicked around the aircraft. Well, sort of woke up, and I woke up next to the main wheel, which I kind of knew I'd gone to sleep there. So it was a bit of a cop out because it wasn't random in that sense. But Dave Hargreaves peered out of the intake, and he'd crawled down to the engine, perfectly safe because it was in the hangar. It was never going to start. And then fell asleep in there and dragged himself out. Brilliant. Jesus. I don't think he knew that he'd got down there. Welcome to the 90s, yeah.
This isn't me, but my mate, in my head, he's got the best one ever. When we were at uni, I used to walk the doors with this lad, and he, on a Saturday, every Saturday he got paid, a little brown envelope, cash, paid, boom. Staff drinks, so you get on that. Generally, you spend all the wages for that week would be gone at staff drinks on a Saturday night. Well, anyway, he woke up on the Sunday on a ferry going to Ireland.
Love it.
No recollection of like getting on the ferry, but he just woke up literally in one of the chairs in like a lounge. Literally, welcome to Belfast kind of thing. So like, yeah, you win that. Random place I've woken up. God.
I think I'm a pretty boring person, really. I think in most aspects, but this statement's probably going to sound a lot more exciting than it actually was. It's not that weird. But I woke up on the back of a jousting association bus when I was younger because I was a part of the Nottingham Jousters when I was a teenager.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you have the medieval haircut, the bull haircut as well to go with it?
No, I was a squire, so I used to hand the swords to the knights and give them their lances and stuff like that. And I think I was about 14, 15, and
Did you have a girlfriend?
I think it was 23, 24, 34, 30, 35.
Yeah. It's
last week.
Brilliant. How did you get into that, Jamie?
Well, my dad was a jester.
Oh, this is going to be real. Oh,
That's not
brilliant.
even a joke. He was, yeah. He was a
Oh,
jester. Yeah, my childhood, I grew up watching my dad prance around in green tights. Yeah.
And I know when he hears this, he's going to love that. He's going to be proud of it.
it's a
Yeah.
gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Yeah, he
Brilliant.
used to play the penny whistle in green tights, dressed up like sort of minstrels. And yeah, it was. They used to do that sort of stuff at the sort of jousting associations or jousting events and stuff like that. And so I kind of just. I used to go along to the shows and stuff, and then eventually got sort of said, "Oh, do you fancy having a go?" So, yeah, they were a bit low on people, so I went, "All right, I'll join in." And then that was it. Right, stand over there, hand us a sword. All right, I'll do that. I remember this one time I'd never been around horses, and I stood there holding the reins of this horse, and it stepped forward onto my foot, and I didn't know how to get it off, and it was in the middle of a show, and it's just stood there. What feels like all of its weight on my foot, and I had to wait till one of the other guys come up and was, "Can you get the horse to move? Because it's on my foot." I didn't know what to do. I was like 13 at the time, just holding this huge jousting horse.
All I can
idea.
think of after you said that your dad was a jester, all I could think of was what was that kids' TV show in the 80s?
Rent a Ghost.
Rent a Ghost.
Because as soon as he said it, I was thinking the same.
Yeah. They used to do that, didn't they? Yeah. Oh, Rent a Ghost. Google it, kids. Google it. Rent a Ghost. Brilliant. Quality children's entertainment, that was. Well, we've learned some things about you, Jamie, for sure.
Haven't we just, yeah?
Secret Santa, here we come.
We've all got a past. We've all got a past.
Yeah, you certainly do. Chaps, we got, I think there's four questions over on Facebook. First one's quite an in-depth question, but the rest I think we can batter through. Are you okay if we...
Let's do it.
You all right?
Yeah,
Let's tick
Let's
those
see
ones.
him off.
So, across the Facebook, Ray F. Walton. Oh, I've known Ray for years, since before the world trip. So, good lad. Hi, Bruce. Hope you're well. I have a dilemma that I hope the guys can help me with. Now I've done the all the gear, all the time approach to bike touring. Now, after a good self-imposed break from the bike world, I'm raring to get out and about on the BMW R90 Scrambler. My question is this. What luggage would the guys recommend for long weekend solo tours? I want to keep things simple, so nothing over the top. I've been there and done that on the Teneri 1200. My thoughts are flipping between option 1, Kriega US 30 on the pillion seat and a Kriega US 10 on the rear rack, or option 2, a Touratech Extreme tail rack bag on the rear rack, and a Hepco Becker X-Travel soft bag on the rear seat. I know you're a Krieger fan, Bruce, but just wondered if the guys had any other options. Looking forward to brew time. Is it possible to listen live at all? No, sorry, Ray. This will go out next week, pal. Okay, luggage options for the R90.
The R90, because I used to own an R90, they're a funny bike because you can only really mount luggage one side, can't you? I think. Am I right in thinking that because of the exhaust?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I used to have the Urban GS. Yeah, and I never loaded luggage on it. I sold it after a couple of months, didn't I? Bought it brand new, sold it. I tell you what my favourite luggage is, and then I don't know if it's going to work. You'll have to Google it. I love the Giant Loop Coyote. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a horseshoe, 40-litre horseshoe made of what they call bomb-proof. It's not waterproof, it's water resistant. You put waterproof bags into it. I love it because 40 litres takes everything you need for a long weekend, and it fits so securely and snugly and ergonomically on my bike. Yeah. On any bike that I've put it on, but I've never put it on a R90. I think it just looks slick, it looks neat, it looks understated. I love it. And I've not managed to break it
yet. Yeah,
no, it is a good system, a really good system.
Yeah, I just got a waterproof roll bag and rock strap it to the back of the bike. If you go, personally,
I actually think there's quite a lot of cool in an old duffel bungee to the back of a bike. I think there's quite a lot of kudos to that because because all the time worrying, and I am one of these guys that's worried about it, all the time worrying about luggage and how it fits and how it looks and how it works, it is ultimately wasted. Just bungee a bag to the bike and get gone. Especially if you're sticking to the road. You know, if it's safe, of course.
Now we
doesn't come into my mind. Yeah, sorry, go on.
But we came up with a really simple. I say came up with it. We saw it a while, like years ago, and created a video on it, like a cheap luggage system for under £100 ultimately. And it was using the sort of yoke from a set of webbing, military yoke system. Do you know what I mean by the webbing, where you've got like the straps that come down and it kind of sits on a belt ultimately. If you take the main part of that, it kind of sits along the back of the pillion seat, and then it can run down the legs of the side of the bike, and you can kind of fix it onto the bike as a sort of rackless system, if you like, and you can strap it to the bike. And then it's got the nice molly on it, so you can then fit. We used Lomo bags, and they were cheap. And they're waterproof. They kind of, I think they're the Scottish brand, and they're kind of made for kayaking and stuff. But we sort of put all that stuff together. We made a video about it, and actually that system is an understated, really simple, easy to use system as well. So again, you don't need to go and spend hundreds of pounds. You can come up with a fairly simple system, or you can go and get a sort of the Reckless 80 or whatever it is from where is that from now? Moscow Moto, and you spend a lot of money again. But they're all a play on a similar sort of system ultimately, where it's just a molly yoke strapped to the bike and then attach bags to it, and that system works really well. It depends how much money you want to spend.
Yeah, absolutely. I like for the tractor, for the GS, I'm in a fortuitous position. I get given like the big pannier bags by Lone Rider, and yeah, they're great. They do the job, but £1,000, it's a lot of money, isn't it, for this luggage?
That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Inside them, they've got waterproof red lining bags, 38 litre, and I think it's a 30 litre. So all I do, if I'm going anywhere where I'm not going to need the big panniers, America, prime example, when I went over there and I was taking my mate's bike, well, I just took the lining bag. So it's a 38 litre bag. And as you said, I got everything I needed clothing-wise. Everything went into that 38 litre bag. And I had a rucksack, because I always wear a rucksack anyway. But all my filming kit, my laptop, went in my rucksack. But my clothes, everything I needed for day-to-day stuff, just went straight into that 38 litre roll-top bag. It's waterproof. And then I just rock-strapped it to the back of the bike. But I'm not worried about, I don't care what things look like. It's just like, can I carry it, and is it going to fall off? Hopefully not. So just strap it on the back and off you go.
We worry a little bit more because we go off-road, and if it bumbles around and it falls and moves, so that's a bit of a hassle. But yeah, I think there's a lot of cool to be just strap an old duffel bag to your bike, especially a scrambler. That looks super cool.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ray's coming away on one of my tours, actually. So, Ray, we'll see what luggage option you go for in the end, pal. Tony Turpin, did the lightweight title come from having been in the RAF?
A fine question from a fishhead. Yeah.
Fishhead, is that a Navy boy, is it?
Yeah. It did play on it a little bit, because when we sort of come up with the term lightweight, we obviously thought about weight and how you don't have to go around the world. It can be an adventure light. But then we did also question, are we that good at drinking? And the answer was no. So it kind of sealed the deal, didn't it?
Yeah. So that was it. Yeah. Play on every aspect of the word lightweight. And they're all true.
And they're all absolutely factual, yeah.
I'd suggest that's a win then in terms of drinking, because if you can get hammered on one beer or two beers, happy days. Who's the fool?
Yeah.
The problem is we don't stop then. That's the thing. No. We keep drinking after that, but it doesn't take us long to get there.
Bruce, you've met us at festivals before. When have we ever been sober? Come on.
I didn't realise they sold alcohol at these festivals. Wasn't aware.
If you can search it out.
Yeah, there's video evidence. Dave Sargent. Yeah. Oh, Dave Sargent again. When it comes to storing items on a trip, is next to the cool box and an M&S carrier bag the best place to keep things?
He is a filthy creature.
He really is. And we'll say no to that, and none of your viewers or listeners need to know why. They can message Dave direct, actually. I think everybody should.
Message Dave direct.
Dave the
Get the
Sidecar
honest
Dog.
truth.
If you want the answer and the reason what behind that question, message Dave the Sidecar Dog on any of his platforms.
Absolutely.
And ask him. I think everybody should.
And
Follow
ask
him
him
on
precisely
Instagram.
what
Brilliant.
ask him precisely what went into the M&S carrier bag right next to the cool box with all of our food in it.
I dread to think.
Ask him.
I will. I'm sure he'll tell me too.
Oh, he will. He'll be
Paul
proud.
Oxborough. Haha, Saul. Well, what's Saul ask?
Oh, I think he was
right,
asking
okay.
to take about. Yeah.
Are they both seeing people at the moment? What is the most random situation you found yourself in because of your motorbike?
Ha! I know it.
From
We were sung at by a Dutch medium in a dimly lit cave with a river that had risen about 2 meters behind us and flooded the deck that we needed to get off in
Wow.
Bosnia.
Do tell.
That happened.
How did this occur?
We were riding through Bosnia and we'd got to the Montenegrin border. We weren't allowed to pass because Jamie hadn't bought his original V5 and I'd only had a fancy photocopy. So the angry man with a machine gun shouted at us. Well, actually, there's a whole story here. Let's quickly tell that because it's a worthwhile story. We'd left Bosnia gratis. We'd got to the Montenegrin border, weren't allowed in because not original V5. Angry man with a machine gun shouts at us. So we go back across about 2 miles of no man's land to the Bosnian border, and he goes, "All right, lads, where's your He wasn't perfect English. Where's your insurance? Where's your V5? Oh, we haven't got a V5. Oh, you can't come in then." And we was like,
Oh,
we just
did you
left.
come? Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, "No, you need your V5. I said, well, Montenegro won't let us in because we haven't got V5, and you won't let us in, so... And so then he went off and he spoke to his mate, and there was a bit of angry sort of talking and shaking their heads and literally just showing our passports where they'd stamped us out.
Yeah.
And then the guy just sort of, to joke, I know this is a podcast, but visually just sort of shakes his head as if to say, go on then,
Go on then.
And so we're in Bosnia now, but now we're in unstamped. He didn't stamp us back in.
Oh, Jesus.
So now we're in Bosnia without a V5 and not stamped in. We're illegal aliens in essence. So we had a bit of a moment by the road and we decided that we're in this beautiful country, let's just embrace it. And we happened to find ourselves at this campsite where this Dutch couple turned up. And I can't remember their names. I've got the Polaroid here. And these pair, I'll hold them up if you're going to use this as a reel, welcomed us with open arms and just fed us and looked after us. But it turns out she was a medium who spoke with people beyond.
Wow.
And we had this amazing conversation about how she was on holiday, so she switch it off, but she chooses not to listen.
Yeah.
And Alex was into his breathe-in techniques, a la Wim Hof. And so that all happened, which was random. And then we all had a sing, because Alex played the guitar and everybody sung. And then Jamie placed this light in the cave which we were sat, which was scary. And we were down by the side of a river. There's nothing special about that. We're in this cave. And when we came out, the river had risen about 2 meters, and we'd learned that they'd opened the dam about, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles down the road. And this river had risen and practically cut off the dock where we were sat up from. I know, I can't give the situation justice enough. It was such a... But I love these people. That's why I've kept the Polaroid on my board, you know?
But this is a testament to the people that you meet when you're out and about. We only met them by chance, was that that they made us dinner. We planned to go... In fact, I think we invited them to go to the restaurant just around the corner. And we said, we got chatting to them. We're going to go to the restaurant around the corner. Do you fancy joining us? And so we all went round there, and the restaurant went, no, we're not serving food. So, oh, okay. And so they just turned around like quick as a flash. Would you like to come back and we'll make you dinner? And just like that, we grabbed a couple of bottles of wine. And we went back and they put on this amazing spread and then, sang at us. Which
it was brilliant.
And
we're making it out like it was weird, but it wasn't. It was just fantastic, and I loved every minute of it. But if you're talking random, She was a Dutch medium who sang at us next to a rising Bosnian river in a cave.
With her husband, who was effectively Wim Hof, did breath work.
I love travel. I love travel for exactly that. It just puts you in the most obscure situations, doesn't it? I love it. I love it.
Brilliant.
Saul Jevons asks, who is the most disgusting person you've ever camped with?
Dave Sargent.
I was just about to say. Sorry, Dave.
No, not sorry.
Patrick Liam, any touring tips? I'm going camping for the first time in a while. Feel that apart from carrying a ton of power banks and adapters, I'm somewhat clueless as to the urgent essentials. What is your must-have items?
Great
Phone,
question.
credit card, passport.
Yeah, you don't even need all the power banks. There's plug sockets everywhere. You'll be able to just put up somewhere and charge stuff.
Don't overthink it, man.
I always take a worldwide adapter and an extension lead, like a multi-point extension lead, just because I have a load of electronics when I go. So I need to charge batteries, drones.
I plug everything onto the bike. So if I'm traveling with the drone cameras, I'll charge everything on the move. So when I get to wherever I'm stopping and the bike's turned off, I don't need to charge a thing. So I never take a plug or anything. But maybe that'll change with South America. But yeah, man, don't overthink it. Get one piece of advice I would always say to anybody is get your sleeping system. So your mat, your pillow, your sleeping bag, your tent. Get that squared, because if you're shattered in the morning, well, the rest of the adventure's done. That's the only bit that I think you need to pay any moderate amount of detail to.
Yeah.
Beyond that, man, there's shops. Yeah, take your car.
Just do it. Just enjoy it. Throw yourself at it. You'll figure it out as you go along.
Have some sandwich bags and gaffer tape, and put your passport in a sandwich bag so it's watertight.
Yeah.
Don't spend
Everything
money
goes
on
in
a
a sandwich
waterproof wallet. Chuck it in one of those self-seal sandwich bags. I've got one that's about 3. In fact, hang on.
A little Ziploc bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's still. No. Where's my passport?
Mine's right here.
My passport is always in that little tin. Where is my passport? There we go. This is what I'm talking about, my desk. Right, there you go. Look, there you go. Passport.
Yeah.
It's in one of those little bags. So it's not really waterproof anymore. There's big holes in it. But it's rainproof for sure when it's in my pocket. But yeah, that's what I would do. Definitely have a couple of them with you. And a bin bag to chuck your dirty washing in. And you can put dirty washing into like a bin bag or a carrier bag, and then that can go in your clothing bag, but it's not going to make everything else stink as bad. Yeah. Or you can chuck it in a different bag if you need. You know what I mean? Like
you're always going to stink, aren't you?
Yeah,
one piece of kit that I always miss if I haven't got a decent one is a decent head torch. Well, that's a boring answer, but if I haven't got a decent head torch, man, that's annoying. Using the torch off your phone.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Head torch is a good call. Right, well, there's a whole sub-conversation going on from Patrick's questions. Loads of people answering it in the comments. So if you're in that situation, folks, and you want some ideas, have a little look at that thread. There's about 4 people chucking in their own input on that. Gents, we've managed it. 3.25 hours.
Wowza.
Good effort. Good effort.
Yeah.
Good effort. Well done,
that was
guys.
awesome. We covered everything there, didn't we?
I think so. Yeah. There's probably plenty more we can chat about, but I'm
no
aware
doubt,
of the time.
Yeah.
Gents, where do people go if they want to find out more?
Just Google Lightweight Adventurers or go to the website lightweightadventurers.co.uk. Will be one of the first websites that pop up. Lightweight Adventure Festival, Lightweight Adventurers. Doesn't really matter what you Google. Have a look there. The website steps you through it quite nicely.
Awesome. And there's links to your YouTube channel, your socials and everything on the website.
No, we keep them separate. So the website is all about the festival. If you want to follow us on socials, we predominantly do YouTube. So have a look at Lightweight Adventurers or CRF 250 and you can guarantee we'll pop up. But yeah, we publish every week on YouTube. So come over and follow us there. That'd be ace.
And the links for that are down below, Bruce, yeah?
Nailed it. Oh, this isn't your first rodeo, is it, Jamie? Yeah, absolutely, folks. Links will all be down below. Make sure you give them a like, a follow, a subscribe. What's the crack with the podcast? Is your podcast still going?
You know what? Podcast is probably the festival, not to get into a whole sub conversation. we never underestimate how much work goes into a festival. You know how you just rock up to these festivals and you think, wow, this is cool. They probably put it on in the last quarter of an hour. Yeah. No, that's rubbish. So we still work full-time jobs. So I've worked 2 jobs and the festival and YouTube and things like this. And then general husband and being a family man. Mm-hmm. Podcasts, unfortunately, they just drop off slightly, don't they?
Yeah.
But we do love doing them.
But we have got a few on there. We generally talk more about the mindset of adventure rather than the nuts and bolts of it. As you know, when we were chatting to you on our podcast. So
I genuinely really enjoyed chatting with you on that podcast. You ask questions which people don't normally ask, and it was really enjoyable to be on the other side of the table, so to speak. I liked it. So I'll leave links for all of that down below, folks. So make sure you check all of that out.
Great
Gents,
stuff.
before you go, floor's yours. You feel free to plug anything. Feel free to give any shout outs. It's over to you.
Well, only one thing to say is the channel might go a little bit quieter for the second half of this year because I won't be in UK posting anything, so it'll be on Jamie. So there's not 2 of us doing it. But January 2025 is when all of my South America videos will start going on the channel. So feel free to give us a subscribe and then start following us for all the South America shenanigans. And I've planned absolutely nothing, so it's going to be an absolute disaster. I know it is.
It's going to be an adventure, mate. It's going to be an absolute
that's what
adventure.
It's going to be.
Yeah. Awesome.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, no, thanks very much for having us on, Bruce. That's all I can say. It's been a pleasure to come back again, as you said.
Boys, I'm so sorry. I really do apologise.
And we'll see you all at ABR. We'll certainly see you, Bruce. And
I'm not at ABR this year.
Oh, man.
No, I'm away so much this year. I don't think I'd have a home to come back to if I went to the ABR. So
I know that feeling.
If
you see us, if anybody else sees at ABR, come over and say hi, because we genuinely love that.
They buy you beer as well, folks, so go and say hello to them. They'll buy you
Marc
beer.
always buys you a beer. So just say to him, as long as you just quote Bruce's podcast, Marc will buy everyone a beer.
Yeah. It's a brew time brew token. Say that.
I'm saying nothing.
I hope you get told that like 50 times so that we can.
All right, gents, absolute pleasure chatting to you again. My apologies for taking so long to get you on the podcast. I genuinely thought I'd already had you on. But,
mate, it's been brilliant. Thank you.
Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. What more can we say other than, keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Woo-ha.